People are wondering why it's so loud today and what exactly happened. Recently, a terrifying powerhouse appeared in the Murim, someone the alliances can do absolutely nothing against. Word is this kid is only in his early 20s. Yet his martial arts skills are already insane. Rumor has it that not even the most powerful factions can stop him. One of them doubts his strength, but the other insists the rumors are true. They say that with just the hilt of his sword, he controls the harmony between heaven and earth. He can summon lightning from the heavens and unleash storms across the land. Then again, people always tend to exaggerate things. In fact, he has mastered not only martial arts, but demonic magic as well. Using this magic, he controls and corrupts the hearts and souls of men. With a single glance from his glowing eyes, he turns people into his loyal slaves. Many highly reputable martial artists have already fallen into his trap. This demon swordsman from the unorthodox faction is none other than Yu Ha-yul. One of the onlookers screams in horror, cursing him for wielding demonic magic. The pink-haired girl reports that the rear ambush has been completely dismantled. Another girl boasts about leaking confidential information to fuel discontent against the alliance. The man screams that everyone has been brainwashed, but he's quickly cut off and told to shut up. A girl with white hair and red eyes looms over him, telling him he's being way too noisy. Yu Ha-yul's wanted poster describes him as a ruthless, cruel, and arrogant villain. As Yu Ha-yul stares at the flyer, someone tells him it's time to head back. In the past, he had neither money nor a sharp sword to protect himself. The girl screams in despair, crying out that he can't protect anything. Because of that, the boy firmly resolves to become stronger. He vows to become the absolute greatest martial artist. The boy asks the girl to make a promise with him for the future. Cut to the present, where patrons in a tavern are drinking and chatting lively. The spear-wielding girl smiles as she listens to stories about the village of the 6 clans. She thanks the merchant guild for helping her arrive safely. They offer her an official job with the guild, but she mentions she needs to consult her master first. The girl smiles and thanks them for the offer, but says she doesn't think she can accept it. She explains that she has a goal and a promise she absolutely cannot break. An elderly man advises her to be extremely careful around there. He whispers that a monster has appeared in the village of the 6 clans. This monster hunts down martial artists and supposedly brags about stuffing their corpses into a bag. The spear-wielding girl recalls hearing about 2 rising supernovas who shook the martial arts world. Suddenly, a dark figure cloaked in a long cape steps into the tavern. The crowd recognizes him as one of the 2 currently brilliant stars of the martial arts world. Rumor has it, they are the greatest villains of this era, willing to stop at nothing. It's the unpredictable demon swordsman, Yu Ha-yul, and he demands to know where the master of the establishment is. The waiter timidly replies that the owner is out, nervously offering to show him to a table. The employee offers to take his blood-soaked bag, mistaking it for regular luggage. Yu Ha-yul furiously grabs the worker's hand and snaps at him not to touch his loot. Terrified out of his wits, the worker frantically apologizes. Yu Ha-yul tells him there's no need to worry because he'll end his suffering right now. The spear girl steps in and blocks Yu Ha-yul's attack on the worker. Smirking, she challenges him to a duel, openly annoyed by his behavior. The onlookers are horrified, unable to believe someone is challenging Yu Ha-yul to a duel. She brands Yu Ha-yul a villain and vows to change the martial arts world by taking him down. With supreme confidence, she points her finger at him and boldly announces that Joyeon has arrived. Yu Ha-yul just looks utterly confused, completely failing to grasp what is going on. The girl tells him to stop making excuses and quit trying to deceive her. She declares that she came strictly to fight him and urges him to make the first move. The deadpan expression, Yu Ha-yul asks if she really wants to do this that badly. He asks her to wait outside while he gets ready, but she immediately suspects he's just trying to run away. The surrounding men panic, realizing that this is indeed the very monster they were just discussing. They whisper that for the sake of victory, neither the orthodox nor the unorthodox factions would look down on underhanded, cowardly tricks. Yu Ha-yul truly is a heartless demon without equal. Joyeon thanks them for their concern and readies herself for the duel. With a confident smirk, she declares that she will become the strongest in the world and that people like him will learn to fear her. Meanwhile, Yu Ha-yul is practically moved to tears inside. He's thinking it's high time to make a run for it, since his only goal was to sell his loot. All that's inside his bag is a dead wild boar, and he has absolutely no clue what's going on. He cries out in despair, wondering why everyone always has to judge him solely on his appearance. He considers himself a completely average, talentless guy who doesn't even possess any real martial arts skills. He remembers how that girl thrust a spear right at his face without warning, concluding that she must be completely insane. He needs to escape by any means necessary. He doesn't want to end up minced meat, and he absolutely cannot die here. At the very least, he can't afford to die until he fulfills his promise. Meanwhile, out on the street, the girl shouts impatiently, demanding the sword demon face her in a duel. Suddenly, a woman wearing a wide-brimmed bamboo hat appears and stops her in her tracks. The white-haired, red-eyed woman asks if she is looking for a duel to the death with the unpredictable demon swordsman. The crowd instantly recognizes her as Baek Seol-hwa, the wielder of the Sword of the Sun and Moon. She is the sole disciple of the former Supreme Master, the brightest star of the Orthodox faction, and the ultimate antithesis of the demon swordsman. Joyeon thinks to herself that if she aligns herself with her, she'll finally get the recognition she deserves. She approaches Baek Seol-hwa and declares that she, too, has come to hunt down the Murim villain inside the tavern. Baek Seol-hwa smiles sweetly and murmurs that she has finally found him. This reaction leaves Joyeon completely flustered and embarrassed. Joyeon invites Baek Seol-hwa to join forces so they can defeat Yoo Ha-yul together. Meanwhile, Yoo Ha-yul decides his best option is to report this crazy situation to the local authorities. He views public dueling as strictly illegal, and as a law-abiding citizen, he simply cannot participate. Suddenly, someone sneaks up right behind him, making him yelp in terror. Yoo Ha-yul tumbles to the ground and begs them to wait, crying out that he hasn't even done anything wrong yet. Baek Seol-hwa tells him she has finally found him after waiting years for this exact moment, while Yoo Ha-yul stares back at her, completely bewildered. Baek Seol-hwa mentions that she has become a top martial artist, gaining both immense power and wealth. She fondly remembers the childhood marriage proposal he once gave her. Meanwhile, outside the tavern, bystanders drag an unconscious Joyeon away while frantically shouting for a doctor. Everyone realizes that the wielder of the Sword of the Sun and Moon and the legendary demon swordsman are left alone inside, leaving them to wonder if these two massive stars are about to clash. Putting on a clueless expression, Yoo Ha-yul claims he saw that terrifying demon swordsman run off that way. He believes there is one golden rule to be learned from all the wild rumors in the Murim. Anyone who kicks down a door is bound to be a psycho. And this woman is definitely out of her mind. He tries to make a polite exit, bowing out and addressing her respectfully as my lady. She cuts him off sharply, telling him to drop the my lady act. She gently cups his face and asks him to call her by her name, just like the old days. He hesitates and utters the name Baek Seol-hwa. Then he asks hesitantly, "Lady Baek Seol-hwa?" He recalls that 15 years ago, during a severe famine, he was sold into slavery and began serving Baek Seol-hwa, who was 3 years younger than him. She was his entire reason for going to Yanghu, the home he always yearned to return to, his beginning and his end. She can't believe it's not a dream that he is now sitting right next to her, drinking tea. As they sit together at the table, he feels incredibly flustered by how close she's sitting next to him. She asks him if he'd like some tea, and he nervously accepts right away. She asks why he's acting so distant and speaking so formally, reminding him that he promised they would never talk like strangers. Blushing, he sheepishly apologizes, while she pleads with him to stop calling her my lady. He bashfully admits he's just really happy to see her again, which brings a soft smile to her face. She replies that she's incredibly happy too, and he finds her so breathtakingly beautiful that he can't help but smile. He glances at her sword in confusion and asks if she has become a martial artist as well. She explains that she pushed herself to the absolute limit to keep her promise, leaving him completely stunned. He remembers how, as a child, he vowed to become rich and powerful, and then went on to propose to her. Panicking, he stammers that the promise didn't have any official weight, but she firmly lets him know that she hasn't forgotten a single word. She mentions that she tracked him down after hearing rumors about an unpredictable demon swordsman. He's shocked to hear claims that he's been chasing women and causing chaos everywhere, internally cursing whoever is spreading such ridiculous lies. But she doesn't care what the world says about him. The only thing that matters is that they both kept their word. Since she succeeded in becoming a master, she declares that it's finally time for him to become her husband. He slumps at the table, muttering that he hasn't even agreed to anything yet. In the Murim, they say there are two things that not even the most powerful grandmaster can escape: The first is the passage of time, and the second is a rental housing scam. Out of all the lucky days during his stay in Yanggu, this one stood out in particular. As he sat there weeping, completely oblivious to his own reputation as a fearsome demon swordsman, someone suddenly reached out a helping hand. It was a merchant from the Eternal Merchant Guild, asking him if he was in need of some financial assistance. Now, that very woman, the elite merchant Han Kyung, asks him if he has finally come to settle his debts. Standing right beside him, Baek Seol-hwa chimes in, noting she heard that he owes a massive sum of money. She instantly accuses Han Kyung of using debts to manipulate people at her whim. Yoo Ha-yul finds himself trapped in an incredibly awkward position. He internally cries out in despair over how quickly a good deed can turn into a hostile confrontation. He recalls that her financial aid was genuinely supportive, not some kind of malicious exploitation. He realizes that Baek Seol-hwa has truly grown into a formidable master, confident that she can hold her own against anyone. When she demands to know what exactly he was doing while she was training to death to become a master, he completely panics. The merchant smoothly clarifies that it was all a misunderstanding and that they had simply borrowed his name in exchange for a minor favor. Baek Seol-hwa fixes her with a serious gaze and asks exactly how much that favor is worth. The merchant replies that if she really insists on settling it, the price tag will be astronomical. She says that if you add up all the services and expenses, the figure comes to about 100,000 silver coins. He's internally impressed, reminding himself that she is indeed the top merchant from one of the 5 greatest guilds in the land. The moment the words leave her mouth, Baek Seol-hwa slams a heavy pouch of money onto the table. She produces exactly 100,000 silver coins from the pouch, leaving Yoo Ha-yul wondering where on earth she got that kind of money. He protests that it's way too much, but she nonchalantly replies that all his money will become hers anyway once they marry. She adds with a smile that she doesn't mind doing this for him at all. The merchant confirms the amount is well over 100,000 silver coins and asks if she will finally let him go. Suddenly, the merchant pulls him into a tight embrace, declaring that their bond can't possibly be measured by mere money, which instantly infuriates Baek Seol-hwa. Yoo Ha-yul panics and yelps at the merchant, who softly whispers back for him to stay perfectly still. Baek Seol-hwa warns her to back off while she can still walk, as crackling lightning begins to envelop her body. He completely panics and begs Baek Seol-hwa to calm down, screaming that she's got it all wrong as he shields the merchant with his own body. He keeps yelling at her to stop, explaining that the merchant is an extremely important client to him. Her furious expression instantly melts into deep sadness as she softly apologizes, leaving him completely bewildered. He tries to call out to her, but she walks away, leaving him to sigh and tell himself that everything will be fine. The merchant asks what exactly is fine about this, confidently stating that as a businesswoman, she can read the room perfectly. She points out that he just successfully dodged an unwanted marriage, even if it got messy, and asks if that wasn't his goal all along. Walking down the street, he grows anxious, thinking that Baek Seol-hwa is completely heartbroken and convinced that he's a cheater. He remembers that when they first met, he was just a lowly servant while she was a high-born noble lady, prompting his vow to close that gap between them. She had endured grueling training to fulfill her promise of becoming a master, and the last thing he wanted was to disappoint her. Just then, he overhears passers-by gossiping about a pale-faced woman who just ran past in a state of utter distress. As a sudden thunderstorm rolls in, he spots a figure standing on a distant cliffside rock, worrying that this could turn into an absolute tragedy. He grabs a nearby passerby, frantically demanding to know which way the woman went. Without wasting a single second, he bolts in the direction they pointed out. He can't bring himself to believe that Baek Seol-hwa would do something so reckless. But sure enough, he spots a solitary figure standing right at the edge of the cliff. He screams out in sheer horror, begging her to stop and promising to marry her on the spot, or do whatever else she desires. He tackles the figure, only to realize it's a random old man, and blurts out, "Will you marry me?" Mortified, he quickly lets go of the old man, bowing frantically and apologizing for the catastrophic mistake. The bewildered old man sputters that he can't just run off after saying that, but our hero just screams in embarrassment that it was all a huge misunderstanding. He stops to think, wondering if Baek Seol-hwa wasn't actually suicidal after all. If so, what on earth was she planning? He realizes he really shouldn't have been so careless with her feelings. He asks the old man who he even is, only to witness a bizarre scene of 2 other guys aggressively practicing martial arts against a tree. He keeps moving forward, turning over a local doctor's words and pondering Baek Seol-hwa's true feelings, kicking himself for taking a crazy old man's words so seriously. He suddenly spots Baek Seol-hwa, who warmly invites him inside a nearby cottage. He's completely thrown off, and she calmly explains that she had been there the entire time, just stepping out for some fresh air when they first arrived in town. He looks closely at her face and softly asks if she had been crying. She suddenly looks anxious, asking if he's going to reject her now because of her outburst earlier. She tells him he's completely mistaken because she knows his true character, but he immediately fires back that he's ready to do absolutely anything just to marry her. But then reality hits him, and with tears welling up in his eyes, he chokes out that he still can't marry her right now. Heartbroken, she quietly accepts his answer and turns to leave. Suddenly, he grabs her hand and frantically yells that she completely misunderstood his point. He explains that his income is pathetic, making a maximum of only 200 silver coins a month. He confesses that he's just renting this humble cabin from a friend, that all those terrifying rumors about him are complete fabrications, and that he's nowhere near as amazing as she thinks. He reminds her of the past, when he asked her to love him even if he ended up being a complete nobody. Pulling her into a warm embrace, he asks her to wait just a little longer, promising that he will properly fulfill his vow and propose to her the right way. Seeing his sincerity, tears fill her eyes as she happily agrees to wait for him. Suddenly, she wraps her arms around him, hugging him tightly from behind. She whispers that if that's what he wants, she will gladly wait until their wedding night, leaving him completely stunned. Pinning him against the wall, she gives him a sudden kiss and says it's an investment for their future. She boldly whispers that their future children will definitely be attending that wedding, causing his entire face to turn bright red with embarrassment. Meanwhile, a massive rumor spreads like wildfire through the town. The brightest star of the Orthodox faction has supposedly subjugated the terrifying powerhouse of the unorthodox faction. People passionately debate whether the legendary Sword of the Sun and Moon was truly involved, and an eyewitness steps up to confirm it. As the gossip mutates, the story gets completely twisted, with people now claiming that the unpredictable demon swordsman has taken the Sword of the Sun and Moon hostage. Ultimately, the final word on the street is that the unpredictable demon swordsman completely crushed the champion of the Orthodox faction. Reading the intelligence report, the pink-haired girl smirks and remarks that things are finally getting interesting. Another woman chimes in, noting that one brilliant star has completely swallowed another. The pink-haired girl smiles maliciously, absolutely certain that the world's next greatest talent will soon belong to her clan. Meanwhile, Baek Seol-hwa smiles serenely amidst falling cherry blossoms, completely oblivious to the dark conspiracy brewing around them. Back at the cottage, the furious landlord challenges the unpredictable demon swordsman to a battle, determined to settle the score once and for all. The enraged man yells that he's been waiting for this moment and refuses to back down even a single step. Suddenly, a mysterious woman holding a sword materializes right behind him, asking a chilling question about what exactly he thinks he's doing. With absolute icy calm, she hints that today might just be the day he dies, terrifying the man out of his wits. Completely terrified, the man breaks down in tears, begging the mysterious stranger for mercy. The landlord keeps screaming, aggressively accusing them of defaulting on rent and hurling threats despite their attempts to defuse the situation. His fury hits the roof when he looks inside and sees his house in complete disarray, with a dead wild boar rotting on the floor. Yul chimes in, completely unbothered, and offers the dead boar as their official rent payment, which sends the landlord into an absolute rage. The landlord tries to process what is happening, utterly bewildered by the protagonist's bizarre behavior and nonchalant attitude. Our hero tries to explain that he had made a sacred promise to her, but the landlord isn't buying any of it. However, the landlord freezes in absolute shock upon discovering that the girl is none other than the legendary Baek Seol-hwa, realizing every single rumor was 100% true. The landlord breathlessly tells him that the entire town is already buzzing with gossip about their relationship. The landlord struggles to recall the rumors he had previously dismissed as nonsense, while our hero is left scratching his head, trying to make sense of what they're even talking about. Terrifying rumors are flying around that the unpredictable demon swordsman has somehow mind-controlled and subjugated the Sword of the Sun and Moon herself. The young man is amazed at how distorted reality has become, though the homeowner finds hypnosis far more plausible than genuine concern. The embarrassed homeowner watches this idyllic scene, realizing the couple is drawing way too much attention. The young man realizes the entire world is watching their union, and the fallout from such attention could be entirely unpredictable. Baek Seol-hwa gently reassures the young man, promising to stand by his side no matter what. The young man squeezes her hand, determined to find a suitable home for them. He vows to become a true master so the world can never tear them apart again. The hero looks at Baek Seol-hwa with deep tenderness, vowing that one day he will proudly propose to her. Their peaceful moment is shattered by the landlord's furious shout, demanding the rent payment. The girl feels relieved after paying off the debt, though she is still ashamed of what happened yesterday. The landlord clutches the bag of money with a manic grin, already dreaming of buying a house with it. The hero flatly refuses, declaring that the money belongs to Baek Seol-hwa and that they will save up to buy their own place. She gently takes the young man's hand and smiles, correcting him by saying the money belongs to both of them now. The landlord watches the couple leave, calling out to remind them to pay their rent on time. The landlord begs the young couple not to wreck his house with their martial arts techniques. Yoo Ha-yeol smiles, assuring him that everything will be fine. Suddenly, a massive blaze draws the crowd's attention, heralding the beginning of something sinister. A pink-haired girl emerges from the flames, screaming the name of the unpredictable demon swordsman. The stranger proclaims herself the next leader of the Four Evils cult. The pink-haired girl reveals her name as Tang Hei, the poison phoenix, leaving the young man stunned. Tang He points at the hero, ordering him to pack up and leave immediately. Baek Seol-hwa steps forward to protect the young man, lightning crackling around her body as she prepares to strike. The poison phoenix recognizes the sword of the sun and moon, flashing an ominous smile at her old acquaintance. Tang He is surprised that the rumors are actually true and that the heroine is genuinely defending the demon swordsman. The pink-haired girl unleashes her dark energy, vowing to unveil a secret weapon and destroy them. The young man tries to make sense of this sudden arson, while the landlord wails in despair over the ruins of his home. Buried up to her neck, the venomous poison phoenix Tang He does nothing but mock the situation, fully living up to her nickname. Tang He smirks maliciously, vowing to become the next head of the clan and warning them that this is far from over. Suddenly, a mysterious figure leaps out from an ambush, leaving the young man completely shell-shocked. The mysterious stranger turns out to be an elite assassin from the secret squad of the Tang clan. As it turns out, this silent demoness is the very same girl from the rival faction. Much to Tang He's amusement, the completely baffled hero tries to understand why all this chaos was unleashed in the first place. The poison phoenix puts on quite a performance, acting like a champion of justice who came to his rescue. The landlord is furious and demands restitution, while Tang He casually dismisses the arson as a classic tactical maneuver. The silent demon spins yet another lie, claiming that the demon swordsman has taken Baek Seol-hwa's parents hostage. The young man recalls how, just seconds ago, Tang He was screaming at Baek Seol-hwa to drop dead. Her true objective is finally brought to light. The silent demon's true target all along was Baek Seol-hwa. The roots of this hatred run deep, tracing back to a humiliating defeat the silent demon suffered at the hands of the sword of the sun and moon. She burns for revenge, yet hesitates, doubting her own strength as she stares at the smoking mountain in the distance. Her cunning plan was to subdue the demon swordsman first, and then rescue Baek Seol-hwa, killing two birds with one stone. When asked if they knew each other, Baek Seol-hwa coldly replies that they don't, sparking a wave of outrage among those captured. Tang He bursts into a scream, unable to believe such blatant disrespect from her sworn rival. The poison phoenix furiously declares that she is far from the first person Baek Seol-hwa has humiliated like this. The pink-haired girl begs to end it all for the greater good, inadvertently giving away her own guilt. Baek Seol-hwa unleashes a devastating strike that the silent demon barely manages to parry, but more enemies suddenly emerge from the forest. Feigning regret, the poison phoenix, Tang He, declares that sometimes kindness must be enforced by taking hostages. Two women are dragged out as hostages, and the sight of one of them sends the young man into absolute shock. Tang He threatens the hero, warning him that things will end horribly if he doesn't surrender, but the young man just stares at the hostages in sheer confusion. The pink-haired girl screams furiously at the hero to stop acting, claiming that the woman is his mother. The young man calmly replies that his mother passed away when he was 5, leaving Tang He utterly stunned. The elderly hostage screams furiously that her son's name is Yoo Ha-yeol, not Yoo Ha-yeol, completely upending the situation. Tang He shrieks in utter frustration, ordering everyone to shut up and surrender immediately. Completely bewildered, The Poison Phoenix can't fathom why no one is listening to her, or why Baek Seol-hwa is siding with this demon. A silent assassin presses a sword against the old woman's throat, threatening to slit it if the hero doesn't surrender. The young man rushes to intercept the killer, throwing Tang He into absolute confusion. The hero recalls the recent rumors that the demon swordsman's parents had been taken hostage. The young man screams desperately that she isn't his mother, trying to break through the crowd. Onlookers in the crowd whisper disdainfully, muttering that the boy is willing to abandon his own mother just to save his own skin. The Poison Phoenix, Tang He, realizes she was fed completely false information about the so-called Sa-he-dan family. Spurred by her family's honor and her reputation as the Poison Phoenix, she knows she has to act. The achievements, pride, and status of the greatest prodigy of the new generation are all on the line. Baek Seol-hwa addresses the hero, but her words push Tang He into a fit of uncontrollable rage. Shrouded in a toxic aura, she leaps forward, launching a ferocious attack with a piercing scream. The heroine refuses to let her succeed and resolutely rushes to intercept the attack. Baek Seol-hwa easily deflects the blow, demonstrating her absolute superiority in raw power. The silent assassin smirks, noting that in the heat of battle, someone left themselves wide open. Suddenly, a dark needle pierces the hero's back, catching everyone completely off guard. Baek Seol-hwa desperately catches the falling young man, screaming his name. She looks down at the wounded youth in horror, consumed by guilt and helplessness. The wounded young man tries to soothe Baek Seol-hwa, whispering weakly that he is fine. He tenderly embraces his beloved, finding solace in her arms. The hero apologizes for giving her such a fright. The landlord is bewildered, unable to comprehend how the man remains so calm despite such a severe wound. The Poison Phoenix, Tang He, is stunned by his composure, since no one would ever expect a single needle to carry such lethal stakes. The pink-haired girl gleefully reveals her insidious trap, explaining that the needle was coated in the deadly poison of the aromatic root. The young man is horrified to realize he has fallen victim to a lethal toxin engineered by the infamous Sichuan Tang clan. Tang He gloatingly describes the agonizing effects of the poison as it courses through the hero's veins. The young man analyzes the poison's progression with uncanny calm, while a green aura envelops his wound. The Poison Phoenix reveals the diabolical mechanism of the toxin, which feeds on the victim's inner energy to multiply the bacteria. The hero realizes the terrifying reality. The vaster a person's inner energy, the faster the poison kills them. Tang He triumphantly declares that his own power will be his undoing, triggering the poison to take full effect. To everyone's absolute shock, the hero remains completely unfazed and simply looks at his beloved in confusion. Panicking, the Poison Phoenix inspects her needles, utterly unable to comprehend why her lethal venom failed. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl collapses to the ground with a wild shriek, leaving the onlookers bewildered. Tang He wakes up in an unfamiliar room, wearing entirely different clothes, completely at a loss as to how she got there. The Poison Phoenix, Tang He, wakes up in the strange room only to find the demon swordsman himself waiting for her. The young man mockingly explains that he brought her along because she was putting on quite a spectacular show convulsing on the ground. With icy calm, he asks her if she really wants to remain in such a pathetic state. The pink-haired girl realizes that the only way to suppress the poison's effects is to exert flawless control over her inner energy. Tang He realizes she is facing a master whose inner strength rivals even that of her clan leader. Utterly bewildered, the Poison Phoenix asks why her enemy showed mercy and spared her life. The hero remembers his beloved's fury, which was the only reason he held back. Flashing a devilish smile, the young man suggests they discuss the terms of their future arrangement. Tang He realizes with horror that her life is now entirely at the mercy of this demon swordsman, the very man who defeated even Baek Seol-hwa. The pink-haired girl realizes that this supposedly righteous hero of the Orthodox sect had merely used her to catch the enemy off guard. The young man proposes a deal to Tang He, prefacing the conversation with an apology to his beloved. The Poison Phoenix is furious, declaring she will take full responsibility for her actions and won't let any harm come to the Tang clan. The hero asks with a smirk if she can really handle this alone, only to get a sharp, angry retort. "Don't underestimate me." The young man holds up a finger, naming the price of her freedom, 100,000 nyans. With a cold smile, the young man demands both a ransom and full compensation for the ruined house. Tang He angrily asks how long she has to pull together that kind of money. A short while later, the poison phoenix is forced to masquerade as a waitress, begrudgingly greeting new customers. The young man casually explains to the stunned girl that he simply needed an extra hand, which is why she's working there now. With Baek Seol-hwa sitting comfortably on his lap, the man offers Tang-hee a different job if she finds this one beneath her. The heroine snuggles tenderly against her lover, refusing to let go of him for even a second. The pink-haired girl realizes with horror that throwing a tantrum won't get her any closer to home. Baek Seol-hwa promises with icy calm that next time will be different, ensuring her opponent won't escape unscathed. The heroine tenderly embraces her lover, asking if he feels any lingering discomfort. The young couple shares a tender embrace, savoring a rare moment of peace and intimacy. Passers-by on the street whisper that the sword of the sun and moon isn't nearly as formidable as rumors claim. One of the women mutters that Baek Seol-hwa is just wearing a mask to hide her true nature. The hero trains diligently with his sword while his beloved watches admiringly from the sidelines. The young man bitterly recalls everything he lost along the way, starting with his mother and ending with Baek Seol-hwa. He understands that even stranger and far more dangerous adversaries await him on the road ahead. He vows to grow stronger to protect everything he holds dear, knowing all too well that it's a dog-eat-dog world. Yoo Ha-yul asks his lover for advice, hoping to refine his skills. The hero realizes his own skills are mediocre at best, whereas Baek Seol-hwa is a true master. He hesitates, questioning if it's even worth asking for guidance when he hasn't even mastered the basics yet. Baek Seol-hwa praises his well-executed flank attacks, noting the clear signs of rigorous training. She gently rests a hand on his chest, praising his dedication, which leaves the young man completely flustered. She notes that his grasp on inner energy is completely lacking, and that is putting it lightly. Baek Seol-hwa suggests sharing her energy through the practice of hinggi to combine their powers. He is thrilled by the idea, excited at the prospect of finally unlocking his own inner energy. Meanwhile, the poison phoenix, Tang-hee, scoffs as she watches them from afar, entirely unconvinced by their absurd plan. The pink-haired girl watches in absolute horror as Baek Seol-hwa begins stripping the young man's clothes to channel the energy. The landlord bursts into the room, furious that his newest worker is slacking off instead of doing her job. The homeowner angrily scolds the young man for lazing around, reminding him of his generosity and the roof he put over their heads. Baek Seol-hwa tries to shield her lover and pull him away, but the relentless landlord refuses to back down, completely ruining their private moment. Suddenly, the merchant guild leader appears at the doorstep, her timing absolutely impeccable. Every eye turns to the new arrival as Tang-hee, the poison phoenix, desperately begs the guild leader to rescue her. The guild leader smiles warmly, offering to provide the young man with both financial backing and a new place to stay. Suddenly, a band of outlaws ambushes the merchant caravan, demanding they surrender all their valuables. The bandits brazenly masquerade as customs inspectors, blocking the merchant's path. The outlaws are horrified to realize that instead of helpless traders, they have run smack into a vanguard of formidable warriors. The thief panics, desperately pleading for his life and promising they won't cause any more trouble. The guild leader explains that the real threat isn't greedy price gougers, but a notorious bandit stronghold nearby. These outlaws have engineered their own rogue martial arts, and because they completely disregard the laws of the Murim, they pose a severe threat. Bandits have grown incredibly aggressive lately, making it imperative for the guild leader to reach the city post-haste. She requests Yoo Ha-yul and Baek Seol-hwa to escort her, promising a handsome reward for their services. Completely forgetting her current predicament, the poison phoenix, Tang-hee, volunteers to help, unable to just sit on the sidelines. Tang-hee offers her services for a mere 100,000 nyans, leaving the hero completely dumbfounded. Refusing to back down, the pink-haired girl orders everyone else to head back to the inn while she handles the situation. Suddenly, their carriage is intercepted by those very same bandits, sending the tension through the roof. Tang-hee steps out of the carriage with fierce determination, telling the others to sit back and watch while she clears the path. The bandits recognize her as an elite martial artist, and flashing a predatory grin, the poison phoenix praises them for their sharp eyes. Tang-hee's cocky confidence instantly evaporates when she sees the massive horde of bandits blocking the caravan's path. With icy composure, Baek Seol-hwa gives the poison phoenix a mere 10 seconds to handle them, while the bandits furiously demand they hand over their prey. Infuriated, the poison phoenix, Tang-hee, snaps at the couple to get back to their ritual, while Yoo Ha-yul, surrounded by a blazing aura, tries to talk sense into her. Impatient to wait any longer, the pink-haired girl charges forward, unleashing her explosive arsenal. A massive explosion blasts the bandits back, but the sheer force triggers a landslide, collapsing the cliff edge right beneath the caravan. The hero screams in horror at Tang He's absolute recklessness as the ground gives way beneath their feet. Inside the bandit stronghold, confidence runs high, as the vanguard had only been dispatched to gauge the enemy's strength. Their true operation won't commence until a mysterious figure arrives, for whom extensive reinforcements have already been summoned. Word of their vanguard's total annihilation catches the outlaws completely off guard. The lone surviving bandit recounts in horror that his entire squad was utterly wiped out in seconds. The bandit captain intently studies a wanted poster of the demon swordsman, mentally preparing for their upcoming clash. The guild leader eyes the poster warily, questioning whether a man with such a notorious reputation can ever be trusted. Bitter memories of past betrayal have left the guild leader deeply distrustful of everyone around her. The young man pulls the guild leader out of the river, snapping her out of her dark thoughts. Collapsing onto the shore, the hero roars Tang He's name in pure fury, swearing vengeance for her stupidity. Shivering on the cold riverbank, the young man tries to find a silver lining in their dismal situation. Thinking of Baek Seol-hwa brings him some peace of mind, knowing her strength is on an entirely different level. Yet, the memory of their sacred vow to never be parted fills him with sudden anxiety and distress. His heavy thoughts are cut short when a group of bandits suddenly ambushes them from the tree line. The hero leaps to his feet and draws his blade, preparing to single-handedly protect the guild leader from the lawless thugs. The bandits instantly recognize the unpredictable demon swordsman from his intimidating appearance and striking attire. To his utter astonishment, the outlaws turn out to be die-hard fans, enthusiastically cheering and saluting their idol. The bandits proudly chant the legendary feats of the unpredictable demon swordsman, completely oblivious to his sheer confusion. The hero lifts the guild leader, deciding to handle his captive personally. The bandits look up to him in awe, assuming their master had secretly orchestrated this whole reinforcement plan without revealing his genius strategy. The thugs excitedly swap tales of their master's imaginary exploits, attributing all sorts of legendary feats to him. The young man tries to press them for information regarding anyone dressed in white, but they draw a complete blank. The hero orders the outlaws to report to him immediately the moment they spot anyone suspicious. When one of the bandits points out how closely he's holding the guild leader, it creates a deeply awkward moment for the hero. He plays along, explaining he was tired of playing nice for coin and had devised a plan to infiltrate the guild under the guise of an escort. The guild leader stirs awake, only to realize with utter horror that she is cradled directly in her companion's arms. The bandits chuckle at her panicked expression as she desperately tries to squirm away. The outlaws point toward a nearby government stronghold they've successfully reached. Though they are welcomed at the gates and invited inside, the hero senses a deeply unsettling vibe. The young man yells that she needs urgent medical attention as the guild leader goes limp in his arms once more. Refusing to hand the unconscious leader over to a bunch of thugs, the hero decides to find a quiet, safe space himself. The outlaws try to hold him back, warning him of the danger, but he simply snaps, "Idiots," and walks away. With a devilish grin, the young man remarks that a true hunter always tastes his prey. He drops her onto the ground with disdain, calling her trash, which sparks a wave of indignation from her. He smirks coldly, telling her she's completely worthless and that he couldn't stand her from the start. The act finally ends, and the hero thoroughly commends the guild leader's impressive performance. The guild leader proudly brags about her knack for deception, flashing a flirtatious smile. She is puzzled as to why the young man kept up the charade even after they had completely thrown off their pursuers. The young man chuckles, explaining he just wanted to be absolutely sure, and promises to keep her safe. The hero suggests they make their way down the mountain first before planning the rest of their journey. He mentions having some personal matters to take care of, adding that he can only escort her halfway. The guild leader furiously accuses him of breach of contract, reminding him of their agreement and the perilous bandits lurking everywhere. Their bickering is cut short by a rustling in the nearby bushes where a group of bandits has been lying in wait, rounding up anyone they could find. The outlaws are overheard discussing the capture of a beautiful girl from the escort agency, who was personally cornered by their leader and his reinforcements. Anticipating a massive ransom payload, the bandits decide to clear out before drawing any unwanted trouble. The guild leader guesses that the true reason behind the hero's hesitation to advance has everything to do with the Sword of the Sun and Moon. As Baek Seol-hwa faces off against a mysterious, shadowy figure, it becomes glaringly obvious that these bandit reinforcements are no ordinary martial artists. The young man firmly declares that he doesn't care about their numbers or their skills because he will never let her be taken from him again. The guild leader is stunned to realize that the young man had sworn a sacred promise to Baek Seol-hwa long before he ever signed their contract. The panicked heroine tries to explain that her clothes and the guild leader's might get dirty, and that she didn't mean it that way at all. The guild leader looks at the guy in bewilderment as he quickly strips off his clothes. She explains that she's a master of disguise and has no trouble pulling it off. Suddenly, a muscular man appears before them, but it turns out to be just a young man in disguise. The guy shyly covers himself up, claiming he didn't have enough materials for a complete disguise. The disguised hero cheerfully greets his new companion, hoping he'll remember him. The thief screams in a rage that the disguise failed, and they've been caught red-handed. The guild leader delivers a crushing blow, sending the bandits into absolute panic and terror. Tearfully, the thief tries to excuse himself, reminding them about the reinforcements they had called for. The guild leader furiously berates his subordinates for failing to even put up a fight. The terrified thieves drop to their knees, begging forgiveness for their unforgivable blunder. Stepping on one of the bandits, the guild leader orders them to simply escort her. The bandit camp is in utter chaos. The building is completely destroyed, and everyone is whispering about the remnants of lightning strikes. One of the bandits warns of the danger, fearing a mysterious blue sword might appear under the cover of night. Suddenly, a mysterious figure looms behind one of the bandits, proving their fears were completely justified. Noticing her companion's poor condition, the guild leader tries to gather her thoughts. The disguised hero assures her that he finally understands his responsibility and is now ready to protect her. The guild leader's gaze softens as she points toward the burning building, which turns out to be their warehouse and prison. Inside the prison, they are met with a horrific scene filled with pools of blood and lifeless bodies. Realizing they need to move fast, the two rush down the dark corridors, searching for any survivors. Finally, they locate a cell where they hear familiar voices, Baek Seol-hwa and the Poison Phoenix. Tang, he is behind bars and joyfully welcomes her rescuers. The pink-haired girl looks at the demon swordsman with admiration, amazed by his devotion. Tang, he dismissively mentions several porters who were freed right away. The guild leader can barely suppress her irritation as the Poison Phoenix tries to explain the situation. With a smug look, Tang, he says everything is going perfectly and that it's time to make a quick exit. The disguised hero shouts at the thieves in outrage, berating them for failing to recognize one of their own. The guild leader stabs one of the bandits while the others look on in horror, struggling to process what's happening. Crying, the thief tries to defend himself, reminding them that they'd never seen these reinforcements before. The guild leader furiously tears into her subordinates for failing to protect the building entrusted to their care. The terrified thieves prostrate themselves, begging for mercy over their unforgivable blunder. Placing her foot on one of the bandits, the guild leader orders them to simply escort her and the young man. The bandit camp is in absolute shambles. The building is ruined, and everyone is buzzing about the scorch marks from the lightning. One of the bandits warns everyone to stay alert, as a mysterious blue sword could strike at any moment during the night. Suddenly, a shadow looms right behind one of the bandits, proving that their worst fears were far from groundless. Seeing her companion's critical condition, the guild leader tries to compose her thoughts. The disguised hero insists that he has finally realized his true responsibility and will protect her from now on. The guild leader's gaze softens before she gestures toward the blazing building, which served as their warehouse and prison. Inside the prison walls, a gruesome sight awaits them: pools of fresh blood and scattered corpses. Knowing they have no time to lose, the two sprint down the pitch-black hallways, searching for any survivors. Finally, they come across a cell from which familiar voices echo. Baek Seol-hwa and the Poison Phoenix Tang He are trapped behind bars, and she ecstatically welcomes their saviors. The pink-haired girl looks at the demon swordsman with absolute admiration, awed by his sheer devotion. Tang He scoffs as she mentions several porters who were set free immediately. The guild leader can barely hide her irritation as the Poison Phoenix attempts to explain what happened. With a pleased grin, Tang He says everything worked out for the best and urges everyone to make a run for it. The guild leader remarks with cold detachment that in this world, money is the only thing you can truly rely on. The disguised hero strains to hold back the onslaught of the massive tiger as it mocks his weakness. The guy yells out in desperation that being stronger doesn't give someone the right to rob others of their opportunities. Suddenly, the hero surges with incredible power, furiously declaring that no one will ever take her man away from her again. Baek Seol-hwa appears right behind the young man, asking with absolute ice in her voice what is going on. As night falls and moonlight blankets the earth, everyone's attention shifts to two things. The first is the girl's breathtaking beauty, which could make anyone forget the rest of the world. The second is the only man standing out from the crowd, holding this beauty tightly in his arms. Deeply concerned, the young man asks his beloved if she is all right. The girl happily throws her arms around him, saying she's glad he made it even if he was late, and asks where he's been. Baek Seol-hwa explains that she was over at a nearby tower taking care of some annoying nuisances. The poison phoenix, Tang-hee, watches the tender moment with jealousy, unable to comprehend what has gotten into Baek Seol-hwa. Tang-hee seethes with anger when the guild leader completely ignores her, simply expressing relief that everyone survived. Shrouded in a chilling blue aura, Baek Seol-hwa reminds them of her solemn oath to slaughter everyone except Yoo Ha-yul. The hero tries to pacify his beloved, explaining that the others aren't at fault and that he needs to go with the guild leader. Baek Seol-hwa can barely suppress her anger upon realizing that the young man is trying to shoulder everything alone yet again. The massive tiger eyes the girl with keen interest, asking if she is indeed the legendary figure known as the Sword of the Sun and Moon. The bald bandit, wearing a creepy lewd smirk, remarks that the rumors regarding her legendary beauty certainly weren't exaggerated. Baek Seol-hwa coldly observes that since the enemy spent the entire day trekking through the mountains, they must be running on fumes. The fierce tigress lunges into battle, utterly convinced that capturing her will fetch a massive bounty. The bandit captain mockingly dismisses the heroes as mere children, brimming with overconfidence in his own superiority. The giant tiger bounds forward to attack, absolutely certain of an easy victory over the green young man. The young man looks at his beloved with deep concern, unable to just stand idly by. The hero hesitates, debating whether he should step into such a perilous duel. The bald bandit seethes with rage that a mere girl is giving him this much trouble. Enveloped in a brilliant glow, Baek Seol-hwa admits she requires additional internal energy. Giant Tiger is driven mad with rage because, following her devastating strike, he can't even lift his own blade. With chilling composure, the heroine declares that she needs to draw more energy as she closes in on her foe. The humiliated bandit roars in a frenzy, swearing he'll slaughter every last one of them for this disgrace. The king of Nokrum had once given his disciples a vital piece of advice. Never try to master everything all at once. Instead, pour your entire focus into a single point. He had chosen the path of pure, unadulterated brute force, and now, absolutely no one could withstand his simple yet devastatingly powerful strike. The young man cries out in horror, warning his lover of the impending danger, while she urgently requests more energy from him. Desperate, the young man promises to give her whatever she needs, so long as she can put an end to that monster. Baek Seol-hwa readies herself to deflect a strike powerful enough to cleave a massive boulder in two. The girl confidently declares that he doesn't stand a chance at killing her, adding that trying to test her like this is completely foolish. The heroine's counterstrike unleashes such cataclysmic power that it feels capable of tearing the very world asunder. The hero looks at his beloved in sheer awe, realizing that they are standing right at the dawn of an incredible power. The young man shouts out, trying to hold Baek Seol-hwa back, but she coldly commands him to let go. The entire cavern begins to collapse, sending our heroes and their prisoners plunging down into the dark abyss. The guild leader is stunned to discover a mysterious red chest that Baek Seol-hwa had managed to safeguard. Baek Seol-hwa mentions that Tang-hee is currently tending to the other wounded, all while one of their captives continuously begs to be killed. Chuckling, the young man reassures the guild leader that she won't be held liable since the artifact is still safely in his hands. The guild leader eyes him suspiciously, asking if that artifact is truly the only thing he cares about. She reasons that since he stands on equal footing with the Sword of the Sun and Moon, taking down someone like Busak should be a walk in the park for him. The hero immediately panics and downplays his strength, claiming it's just a matter of technical compatibility. The guild leader can't fathom why the young man didn't just hand it over to a more powerful opponent, especially since it would have been highly lucrative. Baffled, the man presses her again, reminding her of the solemn promise he made to protect her. The guild leader lets out a soft laugh, realizing she could have placed her complete trust in this bizarre young man all along. With a sweet, genuine smile, the girl admits that Yu Hyul truly is someone she can depend on. Down in the dungeon, a young man bound in heavy chains reflects on how a true merchant can never afford to waste precious time. Facing the absolute certainty of execution under the Empire's draconian laws, the miserable man awaits his grim fate in sheer horror. Meanwhile, the government official commends the guild leader for a job well done and for successfully verifying the identities of the criminals. The young man quietly suggests to his beloved that she wait outside, confessing that official government buildings always make him incredibly nervous. Ji-ryun commands his men to capture and lock up the high-profile guests who were cornered in the woods. The guild leader steps in, warning them that a highly volatile demon swordsman is directly tied to this situation. A terrible feeling washes over the young man. He knows that slipping away quietly would deal a massive blow to the administration's fragile pride. These are chaotic times where two distinct nations coexist under the absolute dominion of a single empire, and military forces operate entirely on their own whim. Public enemies of the Murim and criminals against the state are handled through entirely separate legal channels, meaning the imperial government cannot directly interfere. The guild leader warns that the moment she hands over the enigmatic artifact, it would be wise for all of them to disappear from the area for a while. The mysterious dragon is tracking this exact target, and the tension has escalated to its absolute breaking point. There exists a state of pure martial ecstasy, a realm where one's inner cultivation completely transcends the limits of the physical body. In ancient times, achieving this state was considered the absolute pinnacle of the Murim world, and it remains the gold standard for any true grandmaster today. Those rare individuals who scale these heights are revered as dragons and phoenixes, and across the entire land, there currently exist only 5 dragons and 4 phoenixes. The young man is profoundly impressed by her serene composure, while the pink-haired girl nods along with boundless enthusiasm. Tang He, the poison phoenix, proudly boasts that she holds the title of the youngest phoenix of this generation. The others remain completely unimpressed, causing Tang He to blow her top when they point out that 2 of their members are just completely ordinary folks. The figure they are about to meet is none other than the simple dragon, widely hailed as the very future of the Manhwa sect. Guild leader asks Tang He if she knows anything at all about the furious dragon, bluntly calling her incompetent. The pink-haired girl realizes with deep annoyance that this legendary dragon is also a complete freak of nature. It seems being completely bizarre is the new baseline for elite masters, which only frustrates Tang He even further. Deciding it's best to change the subject, the guild leader asks the tavern keeper to prepare 4 private rooms. She specifies they need 2 rooms accommodating 2 people each, but the sudden, breathtaking arrival of Baek Seol-hwa scares the living daylights out of the tavern owner. The pink-haired girl steps out of the hot bath, thoroughly refreshed and enjoying the cleanliness, but her bright mood evaporates in an instant. The guild leader flatly accuses Tang He of eavesdropping, sending her into a panic as she vehemently denies it all. The poison phoenix snaps that she's going straight to bed and demands that everyone stop messing around. The young man takes a bath as well, thinking to himself with immense satisfaction just how incredible the baths in this tavern are. Baek Seol-hwa suddenly appears right at his door, gently reminding him of his promise to help her replenish her internal energy. Blushing, the young man sheepishly asks about her clothes and she smoothly explains that hers are currently being washed, forcing her to borrow his robe. The two share a deeply tender embrace as an undeniable wave of romance and warmth fills the entire room. She drifts off to sleep peacefully right against his shoulder, while he shyly mutters, asking if she's uncomfortable. Flashing a teasing, flirtatious smile, Baek Seol-hwa tells the young man to choose his words carefully, reminding him that her heart belongs solely to him. Blushing furiously, the flustered hero holds his beloved even tighter, softly admitting that he genuinely likes being with her. They gaze into each other's eyes with profound tenderness, the air around them thick with pure love and happiness. Meanwhile, in the very next room, the guild leader tries to placate an absolute furious Tang He, just as the mysterious chest slips and crashes onto the floor. In a total panic, the guild leader rushes straight over to the window, noticing that something incredibly bizarre is unfolding outside. The root of the entire disturbance stems from their absolute biggest threat, Baek Seol-hwa, who is completely shrouded in a devastatingly powerful aura. The hero manages to dive and catch the falling chest at the absolute last microsecond, barely saving it from being smashed to pieces. The young man suddenly comes to, coughing amidst a thick cloud of heavy smoke, totally clueless as to what just happened. Before he can even move, he finds himself completely surrounded by armed guards, recognizing one of them instantly. The enraged guard aggressively accuses the young man of launching a vicious assault against Lord Hyun-sung. Every single piece of evidence tracks back directly to the unpredictable demon swordsman, instantly making him the primary suspect. The guy is completely shell-shocked that a low-profile rogue like him is being accused of assaulting a high-ranking imperial official. He frantically tries to explain that the entire thing was just a freak accident, but they instantly lock him into the wooden pillory anyway. The guard barks back furiously, shouting that the master's wife remains completely unconscious due to his reckless antics. They command him to sit there, shut up, and behave, threatening severe consequences if he dares to resist. A mysterious stranger quietly sits down next to him in the dark cell, asking if he's holding up all right. The young man blinks in confusion, noticing that his new cellmate literally seems to be glowing, completely unable to fathom what's going on. The bald individual introduces himself as Jae-won-do, an elder disciple of the Manhwa sect, as his holy radiance flares up even brighter. The hero is genuinely taken aback to discover that his divine cellmate belongs to the Manhwa sect, rather than the Shaolin Temple as he had initially assumed. Jae-won-do eyes him with deep intrigue before suddenly recognizing him as the notorious, unpredictable demon swordsman. Baek Seol-hwa, radiating an overwhelmingly oppressive aura, fiercely vows to break her lover out of confinement no matter the cost. Terribly panicked, the guild leader desperately tries to pacify the enraged young woman, begging her not to stage a full-scale assault on the imperial government facility. The seething heroine ruthlessly declares that she will massacre them all, completely indifferent to making an entire province her sworn enemy. A wave of horror washes over the guild leader as she realizes Baek Seol-hwa is fully prepared to brand her own lover an empire-wide fugitive just to break him free. Responding with immense relief upon confirming the young man is still alive, the guild leader promises to do everything she can to clear up this massive misunderstanding legally. With an absolute spine-chilling calmness, Baek Seol-hwa issues a flat ultimatum: if so much as a single hair on her beloved's head is harmed, she will paint the entire city red. The guild leader attempts to defuse the ticking time bomb, proposing to handle the upcoming negotiations with the full backing of her merchant network. Meanwhile, staring up at the dark starry sky, the poison phoenix Tang, he makes a sudden decision. She's going to break in and kidnap the young man herself to cut through all this unnecessary red tape. Flashing a completely wicked, devilish grin, the pink-haired prodigy declares that absolute victory will undoubtedly be hers. Back in the cell, Jae-won-do listens with deep, genuine compassion as the young man recounts his string of absurd misadventures. The guy can hardly believe that his eccentric new cellmate is genuinely taking him at his word. Without any hesitation, Jae-won-do cracks a smile and explains that people rarely believe a word he says anyway, adding that rigid religious factions tend to view him as an outright enemy. The glowing monk expresses pure outrage over how effortlessly society condemns individuals based entirely on baseless rumors, his heartfelt words moving the young man almost to tears. The rogue finally catches on that his cellmate's literal physical glow isn't just a visual trick, which starts making him feel a bit creeped out. Jae-won-do chuckles warmly and inquires exactly how the young man managed to land himself in such a unique predicament. The bald monk explains that upon his arrival in this territory, a wild horse had broken loose in the crowded marketplace, and not a single soul could bring it under control. As it turns out, the beast was simply terrified by the intense solar reflection blasting off his smooth bald head and bolted, an explanation the young man finds utterly ridiculous. Jae-won-do argues back with mock indignation, insisting his logic is airtight since an enlightened monk like him couldn't just stand by and watch. So naturally, he ended up punching the presiding imperial judge square in the face, which landed him right here, a sequence of events that strikes the young man as completely unhinged. With Jae-won-do's formal detention time wrapping up, he drops a casual promise to help his newly made friends stage a jailbreak before he heads out. Jae-won-do mentions that he received an outside request to fetch a specific item from their inn, prompting the young man to instantly deduce that he was the target item. Out of nowhere, the poison phoenix Tang he blasts right into the cell, loudly declaring that she's arrived to bust him out under everyone's noses. The pink-haired girl aggressively demands a rescue fee of 100,000 coins, while the panicked young man desperately tries to get her to lower her voice. Tang He proudly boasts that she completely flattened every single person who crossed her path, but the grim sight of the unconscious guards only serves to terrify him further. Jiwon-do curiously asks if she happens to be Tang Hee's sibling, prompting the girl to snap back angrily, calling him a flat-out cue ball. The glowing monk mockingly retorts, asking if she was also locked away here for being a complete psycho. Tang Hee coyly explains that she's breaking the young man out for a few specific reasons, while carefully keeping him completely in the dark regarding her massive debt. Finally pulling himself free from the wooden pillory, the hero anxiously asks if everything is genuinely under control. Ju Hwan-do sternly warns that Ji-ryun won't let them off the hook that easily, urging that they make a run for it at the absolute first opportunity. Bidding the young man farewell, the monk advises him to hightail it out of there before the sword of the sun and moon completely levels the entire area. Suddenly, Ji Hwan-do freezes as he senses the overwhelming pressure of the sword of the sun and moon, instantly realizing that she has already arrived. Stunned, Tang Hee blurts out, asking if he already knew that Baek Seol-hwa was his fiancée. The glowing monk glares at them with pure annoyance, thoroughly exhausted by their non-stop bickering. Without warning, Ji-hwan-do unleashes a staggering strike, sending the young man flying violently against the stone wall. The pink-haired girl stands completely frozen in shock, entirely unable to grasp why her own ally just blindsided the demon swordsman. The monk quickly apologizes, explaining that his raw emotions simply got the better of him and clarifies that he holds absolutely no personal grudge against Yu Hayul. However, if he actually ends up marrying the legendary Sword of the Sun and Moon, that changes the entire story completely. Ji-hwan-do drops straight to his knees, openly conceding that there is absolutely no arguing against her monstrous, superhuman strength. As he acknowledges her overwhelming power, a majestic, terrifying vision of Baek Seol-hwa looms large in his mind. The glowing monk sprawls out on the ground, deeply lamenting his failure to protect those men despite giving it everything he had. Looking down at the thoroughly defeated judge with a cold, triumphant gaze, Baek Seol-hwa demands to know if he finally yields. Paralyzed with absolute terror, the broken judge can barely whimper, desperately begging for mercy. With pure contempt, the girl plucks the absolute last remaining hair clean off his head, plunging him into utter despair. Tears stream uncontrollably down the judge's face as the crushing weight of his absolute humiliation fully sinks in. As the morning sun blazes at its brightest, a silent, agonized scream echoes out, felt by everyone in the vicinity. The judge shrieks in absolute horror the moment the name of the Sword of the Sun and Moon is uttered, finally realizing the terrifying entity he has crossed. The guild leader frantically attempts to hold back the furious heroine, but driven by absolute, unshakable determination, she presses directly toward her target. Enveloped in a chaotic pink aura, Ji-hwan-do furiously roars that he will absolutely never forgive Baek Seol-hwa. The excruciating trauma of being stripped of his precious remaining hair has driven him completely over the edge. The young man has absolutely no clue what is happening to his cellmate until Tang Hee steps in and tries to talk some sense into him. Utterly bewildered, the hero asks how on earth they are supposed to handle this insanely intense couple. The pink-haired girl gives him a deeply sympathetic look, fully realizing just how exhausting this entire ordeal is going to be for him. The young man sheepishly tries to explain that she has completely got the wrong idea about everything yet again. The poison phoenix, Tang Hee, volunteers to hold off Ji-hwan-do, sending our hero ahead. She points the monk in the right direction, telling him that what was stolen from him is waiting there. Our hero thanks Tang Hee, not fully understanding her motives, and sets off to find her. Enveloped in a pink aura, Ji-hwan-do furiously orders the girl to get out of his way. With a sly smile, Tang Hee suggests a true duel, noting that the dragon and the phoenix haven't clashed in a long time. Panicking, the young man frantically searches for his clothes, muttering that his beloved might be left stranded there. Finally, he finds her and embraces her with relief, overjoyed that she is safe. The perplexed innkeeper asks where the guild leader's belongings have gone. He recognizes the young man as Yu-hon, and in a panic, he babbles the name of the unpredictable demon swordsman. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light bursts into the room, blowing our hero back. Enveloped in a pink aura, Ji-hwan-do calls Tang Hee a filthy rat to her face, while she snaps back, calling him a bald freak. The pink-haired girl refuses to back down, preparing to unleash her deadly poison technique. She unleashes the Sichuan Tang clan's signature poison technique, but the monk easily deflects it. Ji-hwan-do counters with the 24th movement of the Plum Blossom style, commanding Tang Hee to step aside. The Poison Phoenix is furious that her opponent shows absolutely no interest in someone of her caliber. The enraged monk shouts that he wants the Sword of the Sun and Moon's lackey, challenging the young man to a duel. Our hero is completely bewildered, unable to comprehend why his former cellmate is harboring so much rage toward him. Ji Hwan-do angrily explains that it all boils down to him being nothing more than a lackey for the sword of the sun and moon. Tang He tries to explain to the monk that Yu Hayul is just a reckless, stubborn guy, but that's just her take on him. The pink-haired girl defends him, arguing that at the very least he has a strong sense of loyalty. She explains to Ji Hwan-do that Yu Hayul considered him a friend in prison, which is exactly why he refuses to fight him. The glowing monk feels a wave of shame, realizing that as a representative of the righteous Buddhist sects, his behavior is utterly disgraceful. The protagonist sheepishly tries to point out that you can't really call someone a friend after just a 30-minute conversation. Ji Hwan-do regretfully admits that taking his frustrations out on someone else is wrong, confessing that he has disgraced the sacred name of the Manhwa sect. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa bursts into the room and throws herself into her lover's arms with a joyful cry. The monk watches in surprise, completely baffled by the man standing beside the sword of the sun and moon. Shrouded in a red aura, Ji Hwan-do proudly introduces himself as an elite senior martial artist. In the dead of night, a massive commotion stirs the streets, leaving townsfolk bewildered by the chaos unfolding at the government office. The mysterious purple-haired woman watches the scene in irritation, unable to comprehend why they can't fulfill a simple request. The guild leader panics, desperately begging Baek Seol-hwa not to tear down the entire government building. The onlookers are utterly horrified, unable to process the sheer destruction as one of them begs for mercy. An enraged Ji Hwan-do accuses Baek Seol-hwa of stripping him of everything, while our protagonist tries to dismiss it as a mere misunderstanding. The young man stands there perplexed, trying to make sense of the absolute nonsense spewing from his former cellmate. He tries to reason with the monk, arguing that even if Baek Seol-hwa crossed his path, it's no excuse for this level of fury. Our hero resolutely steps forward, declaring that he will take full responsibility for his beloved's actions. Baek Seol-hwa looks at her protector in utter shock as he prepares to apologize to Lord Ji-ruin. The young man explains that he's sick and tired of a life where everything is constantly ripped away from him, and he refuses to endure this vicious cycle any longer. He's certain it's all just a big misunderstanding, but notes that sometimes you have to take accountability even for unintended harm. Ji Hwan-do glares at him with cold detachment, completely doubting the sincerity of his words. The monk furiously bellows that they are disciples of the Manhwa sect leader, but none of that matters now. Invoking the sacred codes of the Murim, Ji Hwan-do presses his blade right against the unpredictable demon swordsman's throat. He demands accountability for the actions of the sword of the sun and moon, threatening to shave our hero's head bald. As it turns out, the petty monk had been harboring a massive grudge this whole time over a single hair that got plucked from his head. The purple-haired woman furiously smacks the lock of hair out of Ji Hwan-do's hand, calling him a complete idiot. She explains that she rushed to the scene the moment rumors of his imprisonment reached her ears. Introducing herself as Cheon-young, the Grand Master of the Manhwa sect, her grand entrance completely shifts the balance of power. The Grand Master promptly apologizes for the reckless behavior of her disobedient disciple. The Manhwa Grandmaster greets Tang He with a smirk, mockingly congratulating her on her magnificent achievement. The young man is stunned to realize that standing right before him is the legendary sword of the sun and moon herself. The guild leader firmly declares that the unpredictable demon swordsman is under her strict protection. With chilly composure, Cheon-young promises she won't lay a single finger on the guy. Our hero is completely baffled, unable to understand why everyone eagerly swallows up these wild rumors about his love life. To make amends for the trouble her disciple caused, the Grand Master offers to assist the young man. Flashing a playful smile, Cheon-young mentions that he isn't even the youngest man to catch her eye. The Poison Phoenix, Tang He, furiously accuses the Grandmaster of trying to seduce her brother too. Cheon-young bitterly recalls how her sect leader played her, promising never to interfere with her personal life. She remains bitter about being forced into her leadership role, all because of some absurd merit-based assignment system. As it turns out, Cheon-young is actually 50 years old, and she sharply demands an end to the conversation. The woman smirks and tells the young man he might as well add her to his collection, since he already has 3 women, and one more won't hurt. To Baek Seol-hwa, absolutely nothing matters besides Yu Hayul, who means more to her than the entire world. The precious time she promised to spend with him had been ruined, and worse, she had inadvertently placed him in grave danger. now that they are trying to openly tear away the person she values most. Her remaining patience has completely evaporated. Her patience completely spent, a furious Baek Seol-hwa cold-bloodedly orders everyone to die. The rumors weren't exaggerating, in fact. The reality is far more terrifying, as she unleashes the power of a true monster. Yet despite her terrifying, overwhelming power, to our young hero, she's still the exact same sweet, vulnerable girl he loves. The terrified official begs for mercy, completely clueless as to who this man is to warrant such absolute protection. Desperate to save his own skin, he offers up everything he has, handing over a mysterious red chest. Weeping in terror, the official confesses that Lord Ji-ruin forced him into the whole scheme. Ji-ruin arrives and demands the immediate surrender of the trespassers holding the government office. He mockingly announces that they are completely surrounded, expecting them to submit to the absolute authority of the law. While the guards report that the perimeter is secure, it appears everyone is still trapped inside the building. Total chaos reigns inside, and Ji-ruin finds it highly suspicious that Hyun-sung hasn't reported back yet. His subordinate grows uneasy, deeply doubting whether their forces can actually defeat a monster like the demon swordsman. However, the unexpected involvement of the Manhwa Grandmaster gives them leverage to pressure the entire sect. Ji-ruin eagerly bides his time, salivating at the thought of finally getting his hands on that mysterious red chest. One of the guards nervously mentions the rumors that the demon swordsman employs dark charms to seduce women left and right. Even though their opponent is a grandmaster of the Manhwa sect, Ji-ruin scoffs, believing that little idiot poses absolutely no threat to him. Suddenly, Yu Ha-yul, Baek Seol-hwa, and the guild leader materialize on the roof, instantly altering the balance of power. Ji-ruin screams the name of the unpredictable demon swordsman in absolute horror, unable to believe his eyes. Relieved, our hero thanks his beloved for keeping him safe, overjoyed to be by her side once more. The guild leader furiously snaps at Baek Seol-hwa and the Grandmaster for drawing weapons inside a building that's already on the verge of collapse. Cheon-young complains about being covered in dust from shielding the boy, grumbling about her lack of recognition. Baek Seol-hwa proudly proclaims that the boy will soon be her fiancé, catching the Grandmaster completely off guard. Ji-ran watches the spectacle with utter disgust, thoroughly convinced that our hero is using a seductive brainwashing spell. Yanking the official up by his hair, he confirms that the guy deliberately engineered a scene just to get thrown into prison. As it turns out, this lizard-like bureaucrat was knocked out and captured as part of a plot to collect a massive ransom, only to rob him blind afterward. Furious that a mere scavenger would dare dictate terms to him, Ji-ruin readies himself for a decisive strike. Enraged, Ji-ruin rails against them for demolishing state property. Hiding behind his status as a government-backed official, he sentences the unpredictable demon swordsman to death on the spot, leaving our poor protagonist to cry out in despair. Why does this always happen to him? The corrupt official suggests throwing the demon swordsman to the wolves, pointing out he's the only outsider who doesn't belong to a major sect. Flares of blue aura erupting around her. Baek Seol-hwa fiercely warns the old man to shut his mouth if he wants to live. The Grand Master of Manhwa steps in, trying to diffuse the tension with a relaxed smile, much to Ji-ruin's shock. Ji-ruin screams in frustration, shouting that she shouldn't tolerate such an idiot, especially when her antics cause the entire government building to collapse. Cheon-young effortlessly blocks his strike, daring him to take another shot if he has the guts. She counter-accuses him of framing her disciple and brazenly trying to claim the seized contraband for himself. With purple flames igniting in her eyes, she warns him that his actions are nothing short of a declaration of war against the entire Murim. She demands to know if he's truly prepared to face the consequences, causing his arrogant face to contort in pure terror. Inside the red chest lies a mysterious fragment of metal, the hidden catalyst behind all this chaos. It had been 30 long years since she last laid eyes on that legendary relic. The Grand Master commends the guild leader for securing the relic and executing the plan flawlessly. Our hero bids farewell to Cheon-young, knowing deep down that this won't be the last time their paths cross. Nearby, the pink-haired Tang he chews out the bound monk, telling him he should be utterly ashamed of himself. True vengeance requires the perfect time and place, and a fateful duel to the death between the dragon and the phoenix looms on the horizon. Now sporting clean, high-end robes, Ji-hwan-do cordially invites them to cross paths again in the future. With a disdainful sigh, the Grand Master hauls the reluctant monk away, bidding the group farewell. Finally, this chaotic chapter comes to a close, even if half the disaster was entirely our hero's fault. Exhausted from the relentless drama, our hero suggests they pack up their things and get some well-deserved rest. The young man turns to his beloved, gently asking if she's holding up okay after everything. An innkeeper greets the guild leader enthusiastically, completely starstruck by her beauty. But the moment Yu Ha-yul steps into view, the poor owner is plunged into absolute terror. With icy composure, Baek Seol-hwa requests 2 double-seater carriages. Our hero sheepishly offers to track down alternative transport if none are available, earning a tender look from his beloved. Tang He and the guild leader can't help but chuckle at the overly sweet, romantic display. Inside the carriage, the elders exchange wildly exaggerated stories about the showdown they just witnessed. Tang He cuts them off indignantly, grandiosely proclaiming that it was a historic clash of pure blood, sweat, and tears. By her account, the fierce engagement raged on for 3 days and 3 nights straight, leaving everyone completely sleepless. The heavens and earth shook from the impact, paralyzing the poor carriage driver with absolute fear. One old man recalls in terror the awe-inspiring might unleashed by the unpredictable demon swordsman. A master swordsman never squanders a strike, and all that destructive sword chi was aimed directly at the 3 dantians of the Sword of the Sun and Moon. The guild leader sits there entirely bewildered, trying to process the ridiculous rumors and unsure how to even react. The young man jokes about how they chanted his name so fiercely that the surrounding mountains and rivers trembled. In response, the Sword of the Sun and Moon delivers a swift jab, prompting our hero to quickly change the subject. The guild leader sheepishly brings up the outstanding balances, and our protagonist casually mentions a sum of 6,000 neons. They lost 3 full carriages in the building collapse, not to mention the staggering extra fees and fines incurred. The guild leader wants to be perfectly clear. It's definitely not her fault, as she fulfilled her contract and protected them. Besides, after factoring in the performance bonuses and the funds seized from Ji-ryun, they actually turned a tidy little profit. The young man offers his sincere thanks to the leader, who blushes and tells him it was nothing. The young man enthusiastically vows to do everything in his power to repay his savior. Armed with their fresh earnings, they finally have the capital to hunt for a brand new home. The tearful innkeeper practically begs them to move on, while our protagonist dramatically vows vengeance. Their journey takes them toward Yugachon, a hub of major strategic importance for merchants and travelers alike. Given the town's transient population and abundance of vacant properties, they hope to easily secure a new residence. A local landlord freezes in horror upon recognizing the girl as the prospective tenant looking to lease a room. The moment his eyes land on the infamous demon swordsman, the landlord hits the deck, groveling for his life. As it turns out, ever since that previous inn went up in flames, absolutely no one in town is willing to rent to them. Our hero turns to his beloved with a heavy heart, apologizing for forcing her to endure such exhausting hardships. He gently takes her hand, fondly recalling a time when they strolled through the village in exactly the same way. Baek Seol-hwa looks back at him with pure affection, whispering that just being together is more than enough. Tang He scoffs at their display, calling their relationship completely childish. Put right back to work, the pink-haired girl cries out in despair, complaining that she barely got a single moment to rest. The boy asks his beloved if she has any specific preferences for their new home. She bashfully admits that she would love a spacious house with plenty of rooms. The young man happily agrees, fully aware that she's accustomed to luxury given her wealthy noble background. With a playful, flirtatious smile, Baek Seol-hwa hints that their family is bound to grow quite large one day. A local real estate agent barks irritably that tracking down the perfect estate is no easy task. He's utterly insulted that they only have a 10,000 neon deposit yet expect to buy a literal palace with it. But suddenly, a light bulb goes off in the agent's head as a particular property comes to mind. The agent enthusiastically hypes it up, declaring it the absolute finest estate he has ever listed. The upfront deposit is shockingly low, and the monthly rent is an absolute steal. Lowering his voice, the agent reluctantly admits that, to be completely transparent, the place is heavily cursed. As it turns out, the previous 4 families who resided there all fell victim to a massive scam. Our hero laughs it off as a mere coincidence, right as he notices the property owner walking up. A cheerful red-haired girl greets them warmly, asking if they are there to tour the estate. The young man freezes in absolute horror as he recognizes her as the exact same con artist who scammed him before. After locking in a 50,000 NYN deposit, they shake hands and officially sign the lease agreement. Our hero is ecstatic, thrilled to have secured such a magnificent estate for an absolute bargain. The red-haired girl beams, glad he's satisfied, and tells him to reach out whenever he needs anything. The young man waves goodbye in gratitude, still unable to believe his incredible luck. He can't wrap his head around the fact that this beautiful mansion is officially theirs, bringing him one step closer to fulfilling his promise. But as he approaches the front door, his eyes land on an official notice, and his stomach drops. The estate is actually being sold off at a public auction, leaving our hero utterly shattered to realize he's been conned yet again. The slick fraudster cleaned out his entire savings and vanished into thin air, and it turns out he wasn't her only victim. Furious, the young man tracks her down, grabbing her by the collar and calling her a damned imposter. He yells in pure desperation that she ran off with every single nyan to his name. Fuming with rage, our hero cannot believe he let himself get so flagrantly swindled a second time. He demands his money back immediately, refusing to listen to a single excuse. Choked up as he holds her off the ground, the terrified girl begs for mercy, pleading with him not to hit her. As our hero fiercely demands his funds back, the cornered con artist desperately begs for leniency. The red-haired girl tries to justify her crimes, whining that she actually planned to turn herself in and start an honest life. She counter-accuses him of brutality, crying that her back is still covered in bruises from their previous encounter. The young man shouts back that he desperately needs his cash, but the fraudster audaciously claims she's already paid her debt to society. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa steps into the room, her terrifyingly icy gaze instantly silencing the fraudster. The red-haired girl begs for mercy in horror, realizing she is in serious trouble. Tired of the endless, pointless bickering, our hero sighs and simply walks inside. They gather around the table as a heavy, awkward silence fills the room. The young man asks the real estate agent to double-check if the estate is genuinely registered under the girl's name. Since she can't pay back the liquid cash, he proposes that she simply hand over the title of the house to settle the debt. The red-haired girl lets out a nervous laugh and waves her hand, telling him he nearly gave her a heart attack. She explains that the deposit she stole doesn't even amount to a tenth of what this luxurious mansion is actually worth. Our protagonist grows furious, realizing she intends to flip the house and leave him entirely empty-handed. The fraudster insists she's genuinely turning over a new leaf and promises she won't run away from her liabilities anymore. She offers a formal trade, his stolen deposit in exchange for full ownership of this luxurious palace. The red-haired girl tries her absolute best to sell the deal, but he deeply questions whether he should trust her word. She reminds him that he doesn't really have any other option anyway, urging him to trust her just this once. Reluctantly, he realizes she actually makes a fair point. If word gets out that an infamous demon swordsman got scammed twice, his public humiliation will spread across the entire Murim world. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa cuts in with absolute coldness, flatly refusing the offer. The con woman is left utterly stunned, but Baek Seol-hwa coldly orders her to shut her mouth. Exuding a terrifyingly frigid aura, Baek Seol-hwa orders the fraudster to cough up the stolen money and vanish forever. She then gently takes the young man's hand, softly telling him that simply having him by her side is all she truly needs. Snapping under the pressure, the red-haired girl furiously screams at them to do whatever they damn well please. She bitterly scoffs, calling them arrogant fools who will come crying later when they realize what an incredible deal they threw away. She sneers that our hero is a total pushover who doesn't know how to handle women, and mocks Baek Seol-hwa for being incredibly naive. Baek Seol-hwa fires back coldly, pointing out that at least she never has to worry about something as trivial as money. Suddenly, the red-haired girl drops to her knees, begging to work off her debt by offering her services as a servant. She shoves the young man aside with surprising force, sending him flying into the wall before he can even process what's happening. The fraudster furiously snaps at him, accusing him of throwing his weight around just because he carries a sword. The young man bellows in pure rage, absolutely losing it after she dares insult his woman. The red-haired girl spits back that all Murim bastards are exactly the same, constantly looking for any petty excuse to pick a fight. Our hero fixes her with an icy stare, calmly asking if she's finally finished running her mouth, but she clearly isn't done yet. She glares at him defiantly, refusing to believe he knows how to handle people like her. The red-haired fraudster threatens that her brothers are ready to show up at any moment and tear him to pieces. Baek Seol-hwa volunteers to deal with her, but the young man stops her. Gently, he asks for her permission to avenge her, causing her cheeks to flush with a deep blush. Suddenly, the red-haired fraudster's brothers show up, demanding to know who dared offend their little sister. The girl cheerfully greets her brothers, telling them to get ready to clean out the trash. As it turns out, her brothers are true masters and heroes of the Greenwood. One of the brothers angrily demands to know what fool dared lay a finger on her. The red-haired fraudster's brothers drop to their knees in horror, begging for mercy. They try to excuse themselves, claiming they left the Greenwood the moment they witnessed the great warrior's power. The red-haired fraudster is completely baffled by what is happening to her supposed brothers. It turns out they aren't brothers at all, with each one desperately claiming to be the youngest of the family. With a devilish grin, the young man reminds the red-haired fraudster that they still have a debt to settle. The red-haired fraudster panics and tries to stop him, suggesting that they settle everything logically. She asks them what they want and offers the house as compensation. The red-haired fraudster hopefully asks if her sincere repentance will be enough. She recalls a forged document designed to look exactly like the original, which she created with her brother's help. As it turns out, she searches for abandoned houses and poses as the owner to run away with people's money. Flashing a sweet smile, the red-haired fraudster begs for forgiveness for her misdeeds. As punishment, she is forced to clean the hotel, starting from the second floor. She fully expected them to take cruel revenge, but they simply put her to work to pay off her debt. The sudden appearance of the poison phoenix, Tang He, makes the red-haired fraudster realize she is completely done for. Meanwhile, the young man and his beloved were having no luck finding a place to live. The innkeeper offers to put them up for a few days, but demands double the usual price. Suddenly, a stranger approaches them, recognizing the young man as the unpredictable demon swordsman. He introduces himself as Yu Ho-in from the southern village, and the name rings a bell for our hero. It turns out he is the son of the elderly woman who was kidnapped when the house caught fire. The memory of that incident brings back painful emotions for the young man. In utter despair, Yu Ho-in vows to tear the kidnapper apart if he ever crosses paths with him again. Forcing a smile, our hero can't help but think that the actual kidnapper is standing right there in the kitchen. Yu Ho-in thanks them for saving his mother, mentioning that he heard about the mess they got dragged into. He acknowledges that he owes them once again, but the young man is completely puzzled, having no idea what debt he's referring to. As it turns out, the red-haired fraudster they caught had also set her sights on his house. It was the very same house that had been swindled from his family when he was just a child. Following that incident, his mother had temporarily moved in with him, only for another swindler to target them. The young man listens sympathetically, silently noting that this other swindler is currently in the kitchen as well. Yu Ho-in admits he is deeply indebted to them once more and has no way to repay them. He invites them to stay at his house for as long as they like, catching the couple completely off guard. He explains that since his mother will be living with him, the house would otherwise just sit empty. The young man is thrilled by the offer, realizing that by helping them, they had inadvertently saved both his mother and his home. Our hero happily tells his beloved that they now have a whole house to fill together. She reminds him that he was the one who brought it up first, leaving the flustered homeowner to awkwardly shoo them out so they can enjoy their new place. The old man regretfully reports that they failed to retrieve what was right under their noses. He reflects on what his foolish daughter has been up to ever since she ran away from home. Meanwhile, Tang He is thoroughly enjoying her bath, pleased that her lackey will soon be joining her. She hums contentedly, thinking about how wonderful life is, but her peaceful moment is cut short. Suddenly, she springs up with a shriek, completely bewildered as to what she's even doing there. Our hero has finally gotten what he wanted: a proper place to live. But now, a new obstacle regarding his martial arts skills stands in his way. The young man desperately tries to master his internal energy, but he can't feel the flow of chi or make even a shred of progress. He thinks of his beloved with a pang of envy, unable to comprehend how she became so incredibly powerful. Suddenly, Tang He appears, asking with irritation how he's supposed to know. The hero is taken aback by her sudden appearance, while she dismissively declares that important people don't sweat minor details like actual work. The pink-haired prodigy wonders what weaknesses the Sword of the Sun and Moon might possess. The young man panics and tries to defend himself, stammering that it's not what she thinks. Tang He eyes him suspiciously, sensing that he's up to no good. She reasons that since he isn't being unfaithful, she remains indebted to him despite the misunderstanding. Her ultimate goal is to defeat that wretched Sword of the Sun and Moon and exact revenge for what she did. She explains that in order to take down an enemy, one must first unearth all of her weaknesses and secrets. Tang He emphasizes this, specifically because she knows just how close the two of them are. Meanwhile, down at the market, Baek Seol-hwa crosses paths with a vendor who proudly offers her some fresh poultry. Crouched in the bushes, the young man and Tang He watch her closely, with him wondering what she could possibly be doing there. He has never once seen Baek Seol-hwa train, leaving him deeply curious about the secret to her strength. Perhaps she practices in secret, and that hidden training is the key to her mastery. To any onlooker, however, it simply looks like she bought some groceries and is heading straight back home. Tang He proudly declares she knew this would happen, which is exactly why she hired someone. She casually brushes it off, admitting it wasn't a big deal. She simply hired an assassin to put her skills to the test. The young man is horrified by her sheer recklessness, but she remains entirely confident that Baek Seol-hwa will win regardless. Suddenly, the same old man from the cliff shows up, the very one rumored to be capable of slicing a lightning bolt clean in half with his blade. Peering from the underbrush, the young man anxiously watches the encounter unfolding between his beloved and the mysterious elder. As it turns out, Tang He and the elder are just discussing why Baek Seol-hwa isn't dedicating any time to training. The supreme martial artist explains that aside from practicing with him, she does nothing else, as she refuses to waste a single moment being apart from him. She freely admits that her skills might have dulled a bit, utterly shocking those eavesdropping on her. Tang He and the old man instantly yell in outrage, declaring that no true martial artist would ever utter such a disgraceful thing. The elder then invites the young man to attempt a complex Shindoen cultivation technique, noting it would be mutually beneficial. As everyone exchanges awkward, embarrassed glances, Tang He scoffs at them in absolute disgust, calling them a bunch of perverts. The two of them venture deep into the forest to practice energy transfer. Baek Seol-hwa's familiar, warm energy flows through his body, bringing back memories of how they did this every single night. He gets a tangible taste of what true mastery feels like. Realizing he is right on the cusp of his breakthrough. Thrilled to have finally grasped the concept, our hero expresses his deepest gratitude to his beloved for her help. He thanks Baek Seol-hwa, exclaiming that it worked even better than he had hoped, though she still looks visibly concerned. The young man mentions he needs to train alone for a bit while the sensation is fresh, promising to return in time for dinner. He could feel that he was on the verge of a massive epiphany, literally just one step away from achieving it. But in an instant, something deep within his chest completely walled off his energy flow. Our hero screams out in absolute despair, entirely unable to contain his rage and disappointment. He punches a nearby tree in fury, striking it repeatedly, unable to understand why nothing is changing. With blood dripping from his knuckles, he desperately asks himself why he is unable to break through. Sinking into deep despair, he wonders if he's destined to remain pathetic and powerless for the rest of his life. Suddenly, the ruthless leader of the Baek clan, Baek Seok, materializes right in front of him, having watched his entire breakdown from the shadows. The young man is utterly caught off guard, having no idea how Baek Seok managed to approach undetected. With a single swift motion, the clan leader slams him into the dirt, coldly reminding him that he needs to bow his head before his superior. Gazing down at the beaten hero with absolute scorn, he sneers that a pathetic weakling like him could never become a true martial arts master. Baek Seok states confidently that no matter how many false rumors the young man spreads to boost his image, he'll never salvage his reputation because he's still as worthless as always. The clan leader effortlessly parries his attack, reminding him that he has always been her fatal weakness. Tang He watches the confrontation in utter bewilderment, unable to grasp why they aren't engaging in a real clash of techniques. With a faint smile, the old man remarks that it has certainly been a grueling day for Baek Seol-hwa. The mysterious man asks her with a smirk if she remembers him, though his eyes remain entirely ice-cold. Baek Seol-hwa dismisses him with a cold stare, telling him no and ordering him to get the hell out of her sight. Tang He is completely bewildered as to why Baek Seol-hwa has absolutely no recollection of this man. As it turns out, the man is Dojin, the chief administrator of the Baek clan, who has arrived tracking her down on their leader's orders. Tang He yells out in frustration that the man who sent him is her father, but Baek Seol-hwa claims she has never heard of him. The pink-haired prodigy keeps insisting that the man is her biological father, but Baek Seol-hwa merely looks at her like she's completely lost her mind. Dojin is furious that Baek Seol-hwa sent her countless letters, yet she never burdened to reply to a single one. With chilling composure, Baek Seol-hwa admits that she did receive some letters, but had absolutely no use for them. She casually adds that since she didn't know who sent them, she just used them as kindling for the fire. The chief administrator fumes with rage that she didn't even bother opening or reading a single one, convinced she must be out of her mind. Baek Seol-hwa states that she needs to get back to Yoo Ha-yul, and if that is all they had to say, they can leave. The despicable youth, who had clearly already taken a severe beating, was stuffed inside a sack like mere luggage. With a malicious smirk, the administrator points out that they didn't come unprepared, as they know exactly what her fatal weakness is. Radiating a terrifying, icy aura, Baek Seol-hwa warns them that if they dare lay a single finger on Yoo Ha-yul, they will suffer unimaginable consequences. She furiously declares that her father and every single soul living under his roof will die if even the slightest harm comes to him. The mysterious elder steps in to hold her back, pointing out that since they already hold the hostage, she shouldn't escalate things any further. He forces her to choose between her vengeance and her lover's life, and she silently submits to his terms. As the administrator drops to the ground beneath the pouring rain, Baek Seol-hwa coldly orders him to lead her straight to Yoo Ha-yul. With her eyes flashing with lethal intent, she demands that he take her to him this instant. In a flashback to the past, a young Yoo Ha-yul bows politely, introducing himself as a new servant of the household. He shyly meets Baek Seol-hwa for the first time, and that is how his new life in the estate began. The other servants gossip about the scruffy new boy who has been assigned to attend to the young lady out in the annex. They whisper that the master is far too harsh on the young lady, even though she isn't his own daughter. The young man happily offers his companion a taste of the treats he brought back for her. She dismisses him indifferently, claiming she doesn't care for them, but he persists, eagerly assuring her that they are absolutely delicious. The young girl simply stared up at the cloudless sky with hollow, vacant eyes that betrayed absolutely no emotion. Yet looking closely into those very eyes, he could see his own reflection staring back from within her cold indifference. Suddenly, a sudden intrusion shatters the silence as a stranger bursts right into the room. The intruder is startled but absolutely thrilled to recognize the legendary unpredictable demon swordsman in the young man before him. Our hero is utterly stunned to see that the grand estate, which should have been reduced to ashes years ago, is standing completely intact in its original place. With a smug grin, the stranger explains that they rebuilt the entire place from scratch, and naturally with his personal assistance. The young man angrily demands to know why he was brought here, and what they intend to do with Baek Seol-hwa. The stranger, who turns out to be the arrogant young master of the Hebei Pen clan, merely chuckles and tells him to relax. Jin Tai-yang notes with a smirk that he has always looked forward to meeting the infamous unpredictable demon swordsman in person. Our hero glares at him with deep suspicion, completely at a loss as to why he was abducted in the first place. As it turns out, the young man had been completely unconscious for 10 days, and Jin Tai-yang had been personally overseeing his recovery the entire time. He had administered a profound secret remedy crafted by his clan designed to keep the patient under while thoroughly mending their body. The youth still looks incredibly drained, and the lingering memory of his tender, desperate embrace with Baek Seol-hwa makes him flush with embarrassment. He quietly concedes that he has indeed been pushed through absolute hell lately. Jin Tai-yang nods knowingly, remarking that he can only imagine what it must be like to live under the same roof as the radiant sword of the sun and moon. She is like a solitary, exquisite blossom that descended like a brilliant comet amidst the chaotic deathmatch between the dragon and the phoenix. With her porcelain skin and captivating movements, she is a prize that any red-blooded man would desperately dream of claiming for himself. He asks with burning envy how they spent their nights together, provoking our furious hero to bark at him to watch his filthy mouth. Jin Tai-yang laughs mockingly, declaring that this exact fiery spirit is why he wanted to test him, throwing a sudden lightning-fast strike at him. Our hero dodges the incoming blow effortlessly, flashing a smug smirk as he tells him to just shut his mouth. The scene shifts to the grand headquarters of the Baek clan, inside the inner sanctum of the clan leader's office. Baek Seol-hwa scolds his daughter for her absolute lack of respect, but she completely tunes him out. Baek Seol-hwa angrily orders him to shut his mouth and hand Yoo Ha-yul over immediately. Spitting out a contemptuous insult just like old times, she unsheathes her gleaming sword. With a twisted grimace, Jin Tai-yang remarks that it feels as though a white-hot blade is scorching his internal organs. He watches with sick amusement as the young man writhes in agonizing pain, suddenly recalling the classic proverb about the grass always being greener on the other side. And the exact same rule applies to people. Feasting on what rightfully belongs to another man is always the ultimate seasoning for any dish. Seething with pure rage, our hero roars bloody murder about exactly how he's going to butcher him. Entirely consumed by his wrath, Jin Tae-yang is genuinely astonished to see the boy somehow forcing himself back onto his feet in that condition, mockingly attributing it to the sheer power of love. Flashing a sinister grin, he declares that if that's the case, he's more than happy to show him a truly good time. But before he can strike, a bone-chilling voice cuts through the air, stopping him dead in his tracks. As two figures step out onto the high balcony, it becomes instantly clear that the outcome of this game has already been decided. The gathered crowd gasps in awe at the breathtaking sight of Baek Seol-hwa, who looks absolutely radiant. Jin Tae-yang is completely captivated by her striking beauty, muttering that she easily exceeds every single expectation. But in a flash, Baek Seol-hwa's cold blade is pressed firmly against his throat, sending a shockwave of terror straight through him. With chilling indifference, Baek Seol-hwa announces that this serves as a baseline warning, advising the other guests to stay completely out of her way. Baek Seok glares at his daughter in pure irritation, exasperated by her constant refusal to obey a single word he says. She shoots back dismissively that it's none of his concern, claiming she's completely shifting her demeanor solely for his sake. He asks with genuine curiosity what on earth she could possibly see in that boy, remembering how much she utterly despised him at first. Concealed high up in the branches, Tang He listens in on their intense conversation, grinning as she realizes that Ice Queen is completely trapped. With a wicked smirk, she rejoices at having uncovered her ultimate weakness, knowing an opportunity this perfect only comes around once in a lifetime. The young man frantically demands to see her, while the chief administrator desperately begs him to just stand down. He simply cannot believe that Baek Seol-hwa would ever agree to such a deal, entirely clueless as to why this administrator wants him dead. Our hero roars in pure rage over what they've subjected him to, fiercely demanding to be brought straight to her presence. The administrator mockingly chuckles, asking where on earth he gets such unearned confidence, suggesting he's completely out of the loop. They used his very existence to manipulate her into their trap, and now her legendary lineage, vast wealth, and unparalleled beauty are fully within their grasp. He sneers at the young man, asking if a worthless insect like him actually believes he could ever measure up to her level. Locked away in the deep dungeon, the young man carefully analyzes the reinforced iron mechanisms and the rotation of guards stationed at the doors. The echo of Baek Seok's chilling words rings in his head, reminding him that he has always been her absolute greatest weakness. Determined to change that, the young man resolves to break out of this cell immediately while there's still a chance to reach Baek Seol-hwa. But before he can act, his cell door is abruptly blown off its hinges, and a guard collapses unconscious onto the floor. Tang He stands at the entrance, having busted him out, though she openly mocks him, wondering how a famous swordsman keeps getting himself locked up. The pink-haired girl confirms that she spotted Baek Seol-hwa over by the residential annex, and her words instantly spur him into immediate action. She frantically asks if he has any idea how to suppress Baek Seol-hwa's rampaging energy, because it looks like she's about to slaughter absolutely everyone. The horrifying realization that his own weakness is what's endangering his beloved sends him sprinting out of the cells, sickened that he has caused her nothing but trouble once again. He has no other choices left. He must push past his limits and do absolutely whatever it takes to protect her. Grabbing Tang He by the arm, he tells her she's coming along, and they head straight into the fray. All that matters to him right now is reaching her side, and his eyes carry the ferocious glare of a man who refuses to die. He kicks the doors open, shouting out for Baek Seol-hwa, but the room is completely empty. The young man immediately notes how eerie the silence is, though Tang He doesn't quite grasp why he's so deeply unsettled. He points out that an estate of this massive scale shouldn't be completely devoid of guards, warning her that this smells like a blatant trap. Spotting her, he calls out to his beloved in immense relief, pleading with her to escape with him, but her expression remains completely ice-cold. Baek Seol-hwa sharply commands him to stand back, leaving him standing completely paralyzed in utter confusion. He tries to soothe her panic, stepping forward and assuring her that everything is going to be fine now that he's by her side. Our hero reaches out to gently touch her arm, but she coldly slaps his hand away. Without warning, she drives a blade straight into his torso, leaving him completely paralyzed in sheer shock by her sudden betrayal. With an expression of absolute cold indifference, She flatly announces that she is getting married tomorrow, causing his entire world to completely shatter. Jin Taeyang steps into view with an ecstatic laugh, gloating that waiting around all night was entirely worth witnessing such an incredible show. He demands to know what kind of underhanded trick he played on her, but the young master, highly amused, completely dismisses his blind fury. With a malicious, triumphant grin, Jin Taeyang sneers that by this time tomorrow, she will belong entirely to another man. The young man roars in a bloodthirsty rage, screaming at him to get his filthy hands off her this instant. He lunges forward blindly, but Baek Seol-hwa intercepts him, delivering a devastating, crushing blow that sends him crashing back. She reminds him with bone-chilling calm that she had already warned him. Laying a finger on her without permission means his life is forfeit. Tang He watches the entire tragic spectacle unfold in complete horror, utterly unable to comprehend what the hell is going on. She realizes they need to get the hell out of there immediately, but the arrogant young master smoothly intercepts her, forcing a conversation. Jin Taeyang asks her mockingly if she isn't embarrassed to be throwing herself at a pathetic loser who's busy pining over another woman. Seething with absolute rage, the pink-haired prodigy lunges at him with lethal intent, but he effortlessly catches her strike without breaking a sweat. It turns out this is Jin Taeyang, the eldest son of the Sebabon family, and a momentous day awaits them tomorrow. He claims he has a lot on his plate and will handle things tonight, but Jin Taeyang is already busy. With icy calm, Baek Seol-hwa orders Tang He to know her place and stop meddling in other people's affairs. Suddenly, the old man grabs the young woman, leaving her completely stunned by his sheer audacity. They came here for the wedding, but they ended up bringing a mountain of trouble along with them. Spotting a young man chained up in the corner, she realizes this situation is far worse than being in those stupid handcuffs. Tang He tries to comfort him, suggesting that Baek Seol-hwa probably only said those things because she was threatened. He bitterly realizes that this is the root of the problem and that, once again, it's entirely his fault. He knows Baek Seol-hwa would never abandon him, which explains why she looked so sorrowful. He needed to grow stronger to protect her, yet he felt completely powerless. Suddenly, he hears his beloved's voice and can't believe he isn't dreaming. Realizing this is the ancient mountain behind the Baek family estate, panic instantly sets in. In his visions, he sees a young Baek Seol-hwa begging him to leave because it's too dangerous. The other person tries to hold him back, reminding him that he doesn't even know how to swim. He knows that if she tries to rescue him, she will only put herself in greater peril. From the very beginning, there was no place for them in this world, and they had always been nothing but a burden to Baek Seol-hwa. He cries out in desperation that he will stand by her side, even if it means going against the entire world. It was the only place in the entire world where Baek Seol-hwa could truly smile from the heart. As she stands beside him, he holds her tenderly, giving her a deep sense of security. The mysterious woman questions why he chose to take up the sword. Upon regaining consciousness, he is surprised to find that his handcuffs are gone. It turns out Tang He had been there the entire time, mentioning something to him about the moon sword. Baek Seol-hwa had warned her not to meddle in others' affairs, and she found it odd that she addressed her by name. Tang He had checked his pulse while he was asleep and discovered something bizarre. It turned out his body contained the poison of loneliness, a lethal toxin used by demonic cults when handling hostages. This poison allows a victim to be killed from afar the moment the sound of a flute reaches their ears. He realizes that Baek Seol-hwa had knocked him out cold before they could even fire the signal flare. However, there was a catch. There was no flute anywhere nearby, which he found highly suspicious. Their clothes and weapons had been left out in plain sight, almost as if someone wanted them to escape. He knows that even if they flee, Baek Seol-hwa will eventually find out, and the wedding will proceed regardless. This is a blatant provocation, leaving him with a choice: abandon his beloved and run, or claim her for himself. Backed by the full support of the Peng clan, the wedding ceremony commences. Jin Taeyang speaks disdainfully of his nephew, an only child who failed to live up to the family's high expectations. He warns Baek Seok that his daughter will suffer the exact same fate, but the old man seems completely indifferent. With icy calm, Baek Seok replies that it doesn't matter, just as his hat falls to the ground. The atmosphere grows heavy and ominous, making it clear that he couldn't care less about his own child's fate. Deciding that running away might actually be his best option, the young man prepares to make his escape. Tang He highly doubts the plan will succeed, especially with the poison of loneliness still coursing through his veins. When the hero asks her why she took up martial arts, she sheepishly averts her gaze. The young woman proudly declares that she did it to uphold the honor of the great Sichuan Tang clan and her family's pride. She fiercely states that there are lines she will never cross and things she will never back down from, even if it costs her life. The young man nods, fully understanding her sentiments. He promises to go after his beloved, asking her to hold on just a little longer. Baek Seol-hwa is dead set on slaughtering every single bastard who dared put Yoo Ha-yeol in danger. He decries them as vile creatures, rotten to the core, and utterly irritating trash. She vows to kill them all and track down that flute, even if it costs her her life. She decides to finish them off and return to Yoo Ha-yeol, refusing to wait a second longer. With eyes burning red like fire, Baek Seol-hwa furiously reiterates that he will slaughter them all. Suddenly, a young man arrives and indignantly demands to know who he thinks he is, stealing another man's bride. Jin Tai-yang mockingly remarks that the entire unorthodox faction should be ashamed for even being associated with this. Tang he shouts furiously that they have poisoned him horribly, calling it an absolute disgrace to the entire clan. Flashing an innocent smile, Jin Tai-yang claims he sees nothing wrong with a consensual marriage between the descendants of two prestigious families. Jin Tai-yang proposes settling the matter through combat, like true martial artists. He declares that the wicked bastard and the young master of the Peng clan will duel for the heart of the sword of the sun and moon. With a wicked grin, he sneers that he knows everything about Yoo Ha-yeol, calling him nothing but an empty shell. Jin Tai-yang challenges him to a fight for Baek Seol-hwa, confident that he won't be able to decline. Suddenly, the hero lunges forward, cutting his speech short, and leaving him utterly stunned by the sheer audacity. The young man delivers a devastating blow, smashing his fist squarely into Jin Tai-yang's face. He roars furiously, demanding to know who gave him the right to treat her like some kind of prize. The hero pulls his beloved into a tender embrace, telling her that she means everything to him. With icy calm, Baek Seol-hwa declares that she belongs to no one and asks who gave them permission to use her as a wager. Tang he looks at him in surprise, reasoning that if the poison is triggered by the sound of a flute, it could potentially be neutralized by a louder noise. However, she doubts they can overpower the flute, considering they will only have a single window of opportunity to try. Baek Seol-hwa glares with disdain at his foolish son who complicates everything. He is furious that his daughter is associating with such riffraff and immediately orders security to step in. Introducing herself as the right-hand and trusted assistant of the unpredictable demon swordsman, Tang he charges into the fray. She swears vengeance on every single idiot involved in stealing the flute. Baek Seol-hwa bellows his son's name in a fit of rage, calling him a worthless bastard. The young man urges his beloved to elope with him while they still have a window of opportunity. Baek Seol-hwa effortlessly deflects the strike, demonstrating the true prowess of the sword of the sun and moon. The clan leader had given strict orders to ensure the wedding takes place, declaring he won't let her escape that easily. Jin Tai-yang is seething with rage, furious that his generosity was repaid with such blatant disrespect. Surprised to see that his strategy is actually working, the young man suggests settling everything right here and now. He realizes that as long as he has a proper sword in hand, he can protect the woman he loves. The hero has lived his life ready to die by her side, and he refuses to let anyone tear them apart. Jin Tai-yang lunges at him disdainfully, mocking him as a third-rate martial artist who hasn't even mastered internal energy distribution. The young man seamlessly parries the strike, transitioning effortlessly into a sharp counterattack. He roars in anger, declaring his resolve to protect the one he loves and proving he is no helpless fool. The clan leader is taken aback to see this young woman holding her own against him, using nothing but a single sword. Furious, Jin Tai-yang commands him to stand still and meet his demise. The hero confidently declares that he can handle it, noting that his opponents are far slower and weaker than him. He realizes their movements are so reckless and undisciplined that they don't even pose a challenge. Tang he watches in awe as he wields the blade from such a peculiar stance. Among the 5 fundamental principles of swordsmanship, only one enables the weak to overcome the strong. That principle is soft control, which truly separates a master from a third-rate amateur. The only reason he can match such a powerful adversary is that his opponent is completely reckless. The young man senses that this strategy won't hold up for long, while his infuriated opponent barks at him, calling him a damn rat. His arms are growing heavy, and every deflected strike sends a heavy recoil pulsing through his body. He knows that if he remains purely on the defensive, defeat is inevitable. Yet, Charging blindly into an offensive would mean certain death. Attacking leaves one overextended, and a misplaced strike that fails to take down the opponent could easily backfire. Suddenly, the young man unleashes a devastating slash, his blade erupting with a blinding light. Seething with rage, Jin Tai-yang barks that the young man is a pathetic bastard who can't even rein in his anger. He delivers what he believes to be a decisive blow, utterly confident in his victory, but his opponent responds instantly. The hero zeroes in on a fatal opening, aiming to end the fight with a single strike. Watching closely, the old man sagely observes that while it is the tactically correct move, it is also a fatal mistake. Suddenly the crowd vanishes, leaving the young man standing entirely alone in an empty hall. He struggles to his feet, completely at a loss as to how he managed to deflect that last attack. His vision swims, and he is on the verge of collapsing, but he forces himself up, no matter the cost. In the end, absolutely nothing has changed. The toxin still lingers in his system, leaving him completely uncertain of his next move. If she stepped even a fraction closer, he would have no choice but to succumb to the absolute isolation once more. Jin Tai-yang roars in fury, screaming at them to cut it out. His patience has reached its absolute limit. He sneers that a worthless loser should know their place, and that hoping for victory is an absolute joke. He barks at him to step aside as he is blocking his path to Baek Seol-hwa. Accepting the challenge without a moment's hesitation, the young man roars back that he will utterly crush him. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa steps in to intercept, her gaze fixed entirely on him. She transfers her inner energy to him just this once, and he feels a sudden surge of power coursing through his veins. He is stunned by the raw power flowing through his hands, yet highly aware of the immense toll it takes. Deflecting Jin Tai-yang's desperate strike, he zeroes in on a fatal opening. Targets a vital organ, where a single clean connection will prove fatal. As he lands the decisive blow, his beloved embraces him warmly, apologizing for causing him so much worry. Everything concluded successfully, leaving an incredible impression, though he felt a bit exhausted. Baek Seol-hwa is furious that the subordinate failed such a straightforward task. Tang He jokingly remarks that a true master always finishes a fight in a single strike. Baek Seol-hwa grows desperate, unable to comprehend where she is being taken as her entire world crumbles. He screams in a wild fury that their lives are still in his hands, threatening to blow the flute if anyone takes a single step. The clan leader is thoroughly appalled by how disrespectfully they treated the young master. The combatants have already settled the matter, and the older generation has no business meddling in the affairs of the youth. The young man stands perplexed, completely unable to fathom what is happening or why his beloved ended up in the old man's arms. Following the conclusion of the Great Demonic War, they abruptly withdrew, spending a full decade lying low in exile. Livid with rage, the old man commands the second son of the Peng family to stand down for his own sake. It turns out this old man is actually his mentor, leaving the youth utterly dumbfounded by this sudden turn of events. He had passed down everything he knew to her, and he was simply acting on her request. He had been keeping a close eye on them out of fear that the foolish girl would get herself into deep trouble. Baek Seok is absolutely furious that the bastard just utterly crushed his nephew in battle. He accuses her of employing underhanded demonic isolation techniques to hold the three great clans hostage. He demands to know her next move, asking if she is truly prepared to slaughter everyone, including an old man like him. The old man glares at her defiantly, daring her to make a move if she feels that confident. He scoffs, telling her to take that boy who just had his dignity utterly stripped away, and clear out. The young man remains utterly baffled, with no clue who this old man is or where he came from. He mentions that she is incredible and that the ordeal is finally over, but something still feels off. Hang. He asks indignantly if he honestly thinks it's normal for her to swat away 3 elite martial artists like they were absolutely nothing. A voice screams out in horror, wondering if she is truly going to kill her own father, Baek Seok. With chilling serenity, Baek Seol-hwa fires back that he never once treated her like a daughter anyway. He mockingly asks if she honestly believes he doesn't see through her lack of actual hatred. She is terrified of him, and he smugly questions what kind of father would ever be feared by his own child. Catching the utter revulsion in her eyes, he asks why she looks at him as though he were a monster to be feared. A long time has passed since the day he first took her in as his daughter. He had given strict orders to have her raised, yet here she stands before him now, radiating absolute determination. Furious, Baek Seok roars that she is a monster just like her mother, declaring that such a wretched brat could never be a child of his. He derides her as pathetic, completely unable to fathom how anyone could be infatuated with such a mad woman. He commands her to die, screaming that it's impossible for a woman to possess such monstrous strength. It goes against the natural order. Lunging forward with his sword, he shrieks that she is no daughter of his. She isn't even human. Jin Tai-yang sneers, asking if he truly intends to strike down the very person who supplied him with the lethal toxin. The young man proudly introduces himself as a nobody's son, hailing from the humble village of Baek Seol. Baek Seol-hwa fumes at his muttering, scoffing at someone whose meager average income is a paltry 200 nyang a month. The hero resolutely declares that while he may not be wealthy, he is prepared to give his daughter everything he owns. He respectfully asks for her hand in marriage, and Baek Seol-hwa gazes at him with deep tenderness. They share a tender kiss as an aura of love and pure happiness fills the room. He mockingly quips that there's really no point in slaughtering your future in-laws. Utterly bewildered by this absurd coincidence, Baek Seol-hwa feels as though he has just hit the ultimate jackpot. Flashing a wicked grin, the poison phoenix asks the old man if he's ever had the pleasure of experiencing kidney stones. Baek Seol-hwa gazes at her lover affectionately, teasingly asking how he would feel experiencing the pains of childbirth. Life is nothing but suffering, a monk once told her, and she is beginning to realize just how right he was. While her disciples sat facing the wall in hopes of an epiphany, she anticipated nothing and saw absolutely nothing. Being able to tune out the things that turned her stomach wasn't a bad trade-off. Occasionally, a gentle breeze would brush against her skin, rousing her from her light slumber just enough to trigger a fleeting thought. But it was always the sudden arrival of the young man carrying the ointment that fully brought her back to reality. He brought a strange smile to her face, something she had never experienced before. He made her experience emotions she couldn't begin to comprehend. The maid warns her to brace for a slight pinch, and in that moment, everything seemed to converge. Ultimately, something long buried deep inside her resurfaced. It clouds her vision and completely disarms her deep-seated suspicion. If he continues to stir these emotions within her, she will put an end to everything. A single instant of pain will bring a permanent end to this eternal suffering, regardless of your judgment. He screams out in absolute horror, calling for Baek Seol-hwa as he dives into the water after her. She easily could have ended it all right then, yet a single glimpse of his face anchored her. It makes her feel something far deeper than all of this accumulated pain and misery. Dragging her out of the water, he desperately demands to know why she threw herself in to save him. With composed calm, she replies that she likes him, leaving him utterly unable to believe his ears. He couldn't just stand idly by and watch her drown, because she was all he could think about. Love may be a mere word, but it completely shattered everything she thought she knew about herself. Baek Seol-hwa and Yoo Ha-yeol wake up side by side, softly wishing each other a good morning. Their mentor, Yang Cheon, steps forward and explains that it has been a very long time since he last took on a student. He advises the young man to get some rest, noting that he is still recovering from his severe injuries. Suddenly, the old man delivers a swift slap, barking, "Since when do students think they can interrupt their masters?" He demands to speak first, leaving the bewildered youth entirely unable to make sense of the situation. The poison of loneliness within him has been successfully extracted, and the hero offers his sincere gratitude for the assistance. It turns out that upon a final pulse check, not a single trace of the toxin remained. Even their mentor is completely baffled as to how it vanished, leaving him with nothing but pure speculation. Internal energy, or qi, is the only plausible explanation, as a body's capacity to naturally purge such toxins is proof of peak mastery. He warns the boy not to celebrate just yet, a remark that leaves the young man thoroughly perplexed. As it turns out, his inner energy isn't circulating at all, and it has absolutely nothing to do with talent or physical conditioning. His dantian has been completely sealed by an immensely powerful force, a revelation that leaves him utterly horrified. He clearly recalls tapping into his strength during that frantic battle, which was the only reason he survived. The mentor explains that breaking this particular seal is highly complex, admitting that he lacks the specialized expertise required. The hero sinks into despair. After everything that happened, he truly believed he could finally be of some use to her. He feels a wave of frustration toward his mentor for claiming so little can be done. Once there was a simple-looking man clad in ragged clothes who emerged from absolute obscurity to lead the chaotic sword cult. Lately, far too many of these characters have been showing up, turning this location into a literal graveyard. Baek Seol-hwa coldly remarks that this might actually increase her budget before grabbing her clothes. The young man expresses his gratitude to his beloved, but she offers a playful smile and asks if he plans to back up those words with actions. Ever since Baek Seol-hwa returned home, she has become significantly more persistent. He is completely beside herself with panic, convinced she has made an irreversible blunder that marks her greatest failure. She had been secretly swiping meatballs one by one, the very ones intended for the old master. The pink-haired girl simply cannot wrap her mind around the fact that this eccentric old man is supposedly the strongest master in the world. And it's no laughing matter. The thought of a destined encounter forces the young man to reflect on his life. He recalls the rumors surrounding the founder of the Juga family, who was said to be capable of controlling the wind. His seal possesses a will of its own, and the strongest sensation it radiates is its uncanny nature. It is highly likely that this should be considered a cursed martial art. The mentor hopes the young man can find a true sorcerer and successfully resolve his issue. She simply wanted to verify the character of the man that rebellious girl was following. An elder who left the mortal world long ago decides that the time has come to return. Suddenly, an elderly woman bursts into the room, leaving the young man shocked by her appearance. It turns out to be the elderly Dako Yeon, and the elder orders her to quickly return to her quarters. He mentioned they needed to track down a man without a single clue, leaving the young man with no idea how to pull it off. There are so many things he ignores, and he fails to understand why people rush into fights so recklessly. The guild leader asks in surprise, wondering why he doesn't know. Suddenly, the same manager appears, and the young man greets her cheerfully. He wonders what they've been doing all this time, questioning what kind of messenger this Murim operative really is. Corrupt and powerless officials, the righteous factions, and the Murim alliance, they are all doing nothing but bleeding the people dry. During these trying times, they will restore justice and honor once more, guiding and protecting the people. It turns out that behind all of this lay ambitious goals, far beyond a simple desire to make money. A cunning and chaotic demon swordsman attacked the Hebei Peng clan, one of the 5 great clans. The brave groom, the young warrior, boldly stood in his way, but the sudden attack occurred at the most inopportune place. It's heartbreaking to realize that the atrocities committed by the villains of the unorthodox faction have finally crossed the line. They say that very same chaotic demon swordsman lives right here in their village. The villagers fear he might harm them, but they find comfort in knowing he has never shown his face. One of the informants is terrified that the demon will appear and forcefully suppress the truth. Suddenly, 3 figures appear behind him, and he points at them in absolute horror. Panicked, he tries to calm them down, but with his life on the line, he can't comprehend why they've shown up now. He reasons that since he only ordered food, even if it might be poisoned, he didn't come for the Hao Brotherhood, but simply to eat at the tavern. The guild leader believes most of the blame lies with him, as he had been terrified of that man long before anything even happened. She notes that it's her job after all, and asks what he plans to do once he tracks down the Hao Brotherhood. The girl can't tell if he is currently plotting revenge or something along those lines. Baek Seol-hwa states with icy calm that their hands must be severed, shocking everyone present. The young man with a devilish smirk says he'll have to roast it thoroughly. He offers to roast it and eat it, a statement that completely horrifies the girl. She screams in a panic, crying that she's going to die and get eaten, while he attempts to soothe her. Upon locating the Murim messenger, they realize they have finally found exactly what they were looking for. The young man understands that with such an extensive intelligence network at their disposal, tracking down rumors will be effortless. Fabricated rumors have become commonplace, and covering them up is just as routine. Apparently, he had heard whispers regarding the dragon priestess of the Juga family. The Juga clan serves as the strategic brain behind the Murim alliance, renowned for their formations, tactics, and spells. Their martial arts, focused primarily on defensive maneuvers, resembled basic self-defense techniques more than anything else. Whispers circulated throughout the martial arts world that the Juga clan's combat techniques were inferior to those of minor sects. When other sects began voicing their doubts, the Juga clan released an official statement. Upon acquiring a divine artifact and producing a prodigious genius, they unlocked a unique spell capable of evolving martial arts. They pledged to share this profound power with fellow martial artists during the upcoming festival. The mere existence of such a convenient spell arouses heavy suspicion, and their willingness to share it makes it outright hard to believe. The Juga clan residence is now open to the public, drawing massive crowds to its gates. The primary celebration of the Jugo family honors their ancestor, Muhu, featuring a grand lottery spanning 3 days. Perhaps that explains why martial artists far outnumber regular tourists here. Fortunately, his disguise ensures the young man blends perfectly into the crowd. He overhears chatter about the young master of the Peng clan, who has reportedly revealed his true colors at last. The protagonist sarcastically notes that someone around here must be nursing a massive migraine over this minor incident. Concerned, his beloved asks if he's in pain and gently urges him to rest. Suddenly, Kian Young's mentor rushes over to them, offering a brief respite during this stressful moment. The young man is taken aback when the elder of the Manhwa sect suddenly pulls him into an embrace. A visit to this friendly sect festival is just one of many stops on her packed schedule. The mentor contemplates the enigmatic priestess and the legendary spell rumored to exist. She ponders that if such power truly exists, it might even possess the capability to reverse death itself. Jawan-du is horrified by his own words, but states with cold composure that this is beyond repair. Cheon-yong bids them farewell with a smile, saying it was a pleasure meeting them. Smiling, she apologizes to her disciples for causing such a commotion. The mentor reports that an urgent message has just arrived, signaling that trouble is imminent. Amidst such a massive crowd, they have only 36 operatives, meaning they stand absolutely no chance. She commands the Sword of the Sun and Moon to accompany her to meet the clan leader. Given the stellar reputation of the Sword of the Sun and Moon, securing a private audience with the priestess is effortless. The young woman glances anxiously, knowing her lover will return soon and she must wait for him. He hopes everything goes smoothly and that this Ji Ryun won't hold a grudge against Baek Seol-hwa. A massive crowd stands in line, and he spots a suspicious masked figure blending in among them. He doesn't understand why the fellow sat next to him again, and strictly asks him to remain silent. Ultimately, in a world like this, raw power and absolute results are all that matter. Everyone is merely intoxicated by the illusion of omnipotence that comes with absolute strength. The enigmatic stranger mockingly inquires if that is the sole reason he came. While he admires those who attain greater heights, to him, martial arts are nothing more than a stepping stone. He aims for something far beyond, willing to cross any line to claim that power and glory. Hoping he spoke with true sincerity, they walk side by side through the bustling crowd in silence. Grown suspicious, the youth asks who he is and whether he's peddling elixirs. The herald declares the arrival of the priestess, causing the massive crowd to erupt into rapturous cheers. The ceremony proceeds strictly by order of rank, with everyone anxiously awaiting their turn. When it's finally his turn, he realizes he can't even stand properly, let alone ask for a physical evaluation. He examines the scale fragment with intrigue, noting it looks nothing like an ordinary pebble. The hero introduces himself as Yu Ha-yul from the village of Yugachon, catching the priestess completely off guard with his presence. Flabbergasted by his sheer audacity, she can only watch as he takes delight in her reaction with a wicked grin. Suddenly, the priestess collapses directly into his arms, leaving him entirely bewildered as to what is happening. He panics, terrified that history is repeating itself, completely at a loss for how to react. The servant shrieks in terror that something is wrong with the priestess, but the clan leader sternly commands him to compose himself. They offer their apologies for whisking him away without a word of explanation. It turned out to be nothing more than a brief spell of dizziness, though the guards had undeniably overreacted. Flashing a mischievous grin, he offers to examine her body as a form of fair compensation. The priestess flies into a rage over his brazen impudence, but he coolly reminds her that he bears a curse. Grudgingly, she hands over the mysterious chest, telling him to take it as a substitute for any physical examination. Realizing it's an ancient divine artifact, the young man stands astounded by her immense generosity. She strictly commands him never to lose the box under any circumstances and to handle it with absolute care. Should he open it prematurely, he will suffer the most horrific curse imaginable. Left utterly baffled, he questions how his supposed stroke of good luck somehow saddled him with yet another curse. The girl shoots him a reproachful look, unable to comprehend how anyone could speak to Yu Ha-yul in such a disrespectful tone. As a rule of thumb, if an artifact comes with an explicit warning not to do something, it guarantees that exact thing will happen. A mysterious blue-haired girl glares at them with pure disdain, berating them for their complete lack of basic hygiene. The young man panics and yells at his beloved to protect him, but she is still trying to process what's going on. She turns to the youth and coyly suggests they explore the concept of love together. It turns out her true identity is Juga Swayon, though she acts like an eccentric spirit unleashed from that mysterious chest. Everyone is shocked that an elite member of the Juga clan was hiding in there, as the blue-haired girl lets out a dramatic cry. With a provocative smile, she proclaims that she simply wishes to experience what love feels like. The protagonist panics and stammers that he's already taken, but she completely brushes off his explanation. She demands that he hold out his finger, but he desperately pleads with her to wait a second. The blue-haired girl boldly tries to school him in the art of romance, leaving him absolutely horrified by her forward behavior. A highborn lady fleeing her noble house is an undeniable cliché, but in this case, it actually sounds plausible. After all, this is the very man the renowned dragon priestess herself helped escape. It might be wiser to just indulge her and spend the day however she likes. That way, the dragon priestess will certainly owe them a favor. Baek Seol-hwa remains surprisingly unbothered, knowing that this ultimately concerns Yoo Ha-yul's treatment. She firmly declares that she must always come first with Yoo Ha-yul. But as for anything else, she won't object if he wishes it. The guild leader stands completely bewildered, unsure how to process this, though Baek Seol-hwa's perspective carries significant weight. The priestess and the young man head out for a stroll, with her eagerly inquiring about what they should do first. She innocently suggests practicing breathing exercises and regulating internal cultivation energy, but he recoils in horror at the thought. He doesn't comprehend why the dragon priestess singled him out, but she simply explains that his inner flame was beautiful. He can't shake the nagging feeling that they are bound to be framed for kidnapping yet again. The blue-haired girl watches the grand lion and dragon dance with pure delight, unable to contain her childlike wonder. The young man panics and frantically tells them to keep a low profile, emphasizing that they cannot afford to draw attention. He tries to make the blue-haired girl understand that showing off is out of the question. The street vendor shouts in outrage, aggressively demanding payment, forcing the desperate protagonist to accept that he is utterly doomed. He bitterly realizes that his role has devolved into nothing more than a glorified babysitter. The blue-haired girl fondly recalls visiting this place a decade ago and reminisces about how much fun she had back then. The festival spans 3 days, and since today is only day 2, the young man gives in and decides to accompany her for one more day. Suddenly, an uninvited guest blocks their path, completely shattering any remaining hopes for a peaceful day. She is genuinely taken aback that he managed to intercept her quiet whispers at such a critical juncture. The interloper flashes a smile and mockingly apologizes to the elder of the Juga clan for the disturbance. He is infuriated by that smug smile, his thin patience reaching its absolute limit. The protagonist snaps in fury, reiterating that she has already made her distaste abundantly clear. He recalls her flushed face, and the surrounding darkness whispering her name. He remembers the warmth of her hand, seemingly small yet carrying immense weight, interlocked with his own. The man is absolutely livid that operations have ground to a halt because of her, questioning whether they even value their bonds as a family. She firmly declares that whether she chooses to return or stay is entirely her choice to make. Scoffing, the stranger declares that words are useless on him, commanding his men to teach this uninvited guest some manners. Baek Seol-hwa lunges at him in a blind fury, her eyes blazing crimson like fire. Suddenly, elite forces of the Juga clan materialize, catching everyone completely off guard. The clan elder is utterly scandalized that these insolent fools would dare cause a chaotic scene right inside the Juga courtyard. A mysterious, masked figure steps forward, authoritatively commanding an immediate halt to the madness. It turns out this masked warrior is one of the prestigious 5 dragon pillars, serving as Chief Juga's elite personal bodyguard. The imposing dragon pillar, Juga Hwo, announces that the clan leader wishes to grant the guests a personal audience. Wielding an exceptionally rare style of martial arts, he stands as living proof that the dragon priestess has fully mastered her divine abilities. After claiming the legendary title of the dragon during the grand tournament, he completely vanished from public view. Even for the legendary sword of the sun and moon, this marks their very first encounter. The guild leader fumes with rage because, rather than exercising basic caution, the reckless youth stuck his nose into external affairs and managed to secure a face-to-face meeting with the Grand Clan leader. She knows petty parlor tricks won't work here, as they are dealing directly with the patriarch of the Juga clan, the mastermind behind the entire Murim alliance. The patriarch of the Juga family, Juga gang, graciously welcomes the brave martial artists with open arms. He expresses his deep gratitude to the youth for protecting his offspring, praising his reputable name. It turns out he has only held the position of leader for 3 years, yet his radiant warmth and vibrant mood effortlessly put everyone around him at ease. While the protagonist appreciates the hospitable reception, he cannot simply stand by and watch the girl leave with such a terrified expression. He demands to know if they truly consider themselves her family, asking sharply what exactly they did to her. The guild leader is astonished that this impudent brat refuses to beat around the bush. He inquires mockingly if the boy genuinely believes that basic hospitality grants him the license to say whatever he pleases. He realizes how arrogant his stance must appear to onlookers, making him feel slightly self-conscious. He sighs, remembering their simple wish to live peacefully like a family, only for things to fall apart completely. Zhuge Gang formally swears on his family's honor to grant her absolute freedom, sincerely thanking Yu Haiyul for correcting their oversight. The guild leader is left utterly bewildered, as the patriarchs of great noble clans are typically consumed by blinding arrogance. Suddenly, the heroic persona of Yu Haiyul awakens within the young man, striking a deep chord in his soul. The guild leader seethes because he previously claimed to be a detached, loyal vanguard. Yet here he is acting incredibly protective and tender toward a random girl. Rather, it is a profound sense of kinship born from the shared pain of being abandoned by those who claim to be family. The youth knows all too well the crushing weight of navigating this world completely alone, which is exactly why he couldn't just turn his back on her. He frantically tries to explain to his beloved that it's not what it looks like, but she gently soothes him with a tender gaze. Smiling warmly, Baek Seol-hwa confesses that his pure heart is precisely the reason she fell in love with him. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares through the estate as hostile intruders breach the priestess's private chambers. The guild leader urges them to check out the commotion, but the young man dismisses it, maintaining it's none of their business. He rightly fears that if they meddle, they will inevitably become the prime suspects in the kidnapping of the dragon priestess. The clan leader is in an absolute frenzy now that the esteemed guests are awake, desperately trying to keep the situation under control. It turns out they were informed that the terrifying demon swordsman had materialized, making the Sword of the Sun and Moon his perfect natural match. The purported demon swordsman is found tightly bound, as a mysterious masked woman casually greets the allies of the Zhuge family. She proudly proclaims that both the dragon priestess and the sacred dragon scale now belong exclusively to her demon swordsman squad. The female elder effortlessly deflects the oncoming guard strikes, putting her monstrous power on full display. She sneers mockingly. Since when did demonic cultivators develop a taste for plum blossoms? Qian Yong glares at her adversary with absolute disdain, coolly retorting that plum blossom wine only grows sweeter with age. She announces that she is taking the dragon priestess under the authority of the demon swordsman, commanding her to get on her feet. The master commands her squad to fall back to the designated rendezvous point, and they instantly comply without question. The onlookers are utterly stunned to find out that this individual is associated with the demon swordsman, backed by a crew of bizarre figures. She realizes they can easily fend off the low-tier grunts, but the legendary Sword of the Sun and Moon poses a serious threat. While they staged this abduction for a much greater cause, turning it into a hostage situation crossed the line. Zhuwandu commands his disciples to close their eyes as his body erupts with a blinding radiant light. Everyone shrieks in sheer agony as their eyes burn intensely, cursing the absolute existence of that bald bastard. The female elder offers a quick apology to her disciples, instructing them to rinse their burning eyes with cold water immediately. She proudly declares that everyone put in great effort and the mission is officially a success. Suddenly, a youth materializes out of nowhere, coldly demanding to know what kind of mission required them to steal someone else's identity. He is utterly shocked that his new acquaintance could withstand the elder's devastating internal technique. Qian Yong apologizes, admitting they were simply overzealous to acquire that legendary lunar cultivation technique. The youth eyes her with deep suspicion, refusing to believe that the venerable elder would resort to kidnapping out of petty greed. With that vulnerable look on her face, she couldn't hide her guilt, and he realized he had screwed up yet again. He furiously demands to know why on earth they orchestrated this whole scheme, and what business they could possibly have with the Sword of the Sun and Moon. The bound and gagged girl desperately attempts to speak, but she is clearly an imposter and not the real Sword of the Sun and Moon. It turns out they were targeting her all along, and even the high-ranking deacons of the Sun Sword faction were searching for her. Suddenly, the night sky lights up brighter than broad daylight, and the entire surrounding area is instantly engulfed in raging flames. Her true name is Juga Swayon, and 10 years ago she lost her parents and brother to a devastating epidemic. The clan leader recognized a terrifying divine gift within her known as the Eye of the Flame Lord. To her eyes, every person in this world manifested merely as flickering fire, consumed by the sheer beauty of the flame. She wasn't brought into the clan because of mere talent. Rather, she was groomed to be the ultimate key to a far grander scheme. Even the most venerable elders of the family who dared to touch her perished one after another. Yet, despite her innate gift, wielding such an overwhelming power took a devastating toll, forcing her to cry out for her brother in agonizing pain every single time. Whether she finally resigned herself to her fate or simply broke, at some point, she stopped calling out for her brother and chose to blindly obey. Since the grand festival strictly forbade displaying the true priestess or the actual sacred artifact, she had stepped out carrying nothing but a common stone disguise. Having been raised within the Juga clan herself, she had simply tried her best to turn a blind eye to everything. She confessed that her only wish was to experience true love at least once before her inevitable demise. On the final day of the ceremony, Juga Swayon was scheduled to undergo a massive ritual, which was precisely why she had secretly concealed herself inside the chest. The moment she senses a worthy hero possessing an intense inner fire, she will send him a sign. Ultimately, she was captured with ridiculous ease, leaving him completely bewildered by how things unfolded. Those very scales were crafted from authentic deep purple obsidian, a fact she wholeheartedly believed. The old man knew exactly what it was, yet he accepted it anyway. The young man casts a suspicious glance at his beloved, asking if she had seen that object too. As it turns out, it was the exact same purple-tinted piece of obsidian they had left behind. They intended to use them to reclaim what they had lost back then, the unimaginably terrifying power of the demonic sect. The long wait is drawing to a close. The day has finally arrived for the earthbound dragon to soar into the heavens. Though the young man is at a loss, he desperately wants to help Juga Swayon, even if she is waiting for someone else. If she wanted to escape, she should have done so immediately instead of just sitting there meekly without putting up a fight. The main concern isn't that he's risking his life, but that Baek Seol-hwa will ultimately be the one left to fight. Suddenly, armed men surround them, striking terror into the young man's heart. He yells in a fury, outraged by their actions, and how they dared to burst in uninvited. It seems they've decided to lay claim to the priestess, and now a ruthless retaliation awaits them. The chaotic swordsman had completely cast aside his fear, prompting the Juga clan to issue an execution order this very morning. He won't let a fallen plum blossom stand in his path. The Juga clan will not harm anyone uninvolved, so step aside. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa kisses her lover, leaving him completely stunned by her sudden outburst. An unexpected kiss and an exchange of energy. She knows that if she desires it, Yoo Ha-yul will willingly accept it. All Yoo Ha-yul desires is her longing for husband and wife are one and the same. The experiment was a resounding success, and the preparations were flawless. The chaotic swordsman's minions have been defeated, but they still have the Juga clan in their crosshairs. He expected them to attack the moment they crossed paths, and had even prepared himself for it. That imposter and Cheon-yong have likely told them everything by now, which actually plays right into our hands. An obstacle as formidable as Cheon-yong has appeared before him, and for that he ought to thank fate. The servant screams in a panic, warning that the chaotic swordsman is heading straight for them. Baek Seol-hwa orders Sora to head to the Juga clan immediately to help the chief and the young Juga escape. The young man bellows furiously, announcing that the chaotic swordsman has something to say. He commands everyone to listen up, revealing himself as the very same scarred, fierce-faced chaotic swordsman. He claims responsibility for kidnapping the priestess and stealing the dragon scale, presenting the forgery for all to see. He asks if they truly believe that cutting off his head will easily earn them the promised reward. But he won't let that happen. From this moment on, he will tear the Juga clan apart. And once he lays his hands on a genuine dragon scale, he will unleash its power upon every single one of them without exception. You have only two choices. Side with him to gain ultimate power, or keep blindly believing the Juga clan's hollow promises and face the chaotic swordsman. The entire defensive formation lies shattered, leaving the panicked crowd completely clueless as to what is happening. Rallied by his speech, the crowd charges forward into battle, with Lord Chaotic Swordsman leading the fray. With all the infamy that had dogged him before, his name was already completely tarnished. The young man resolutely declares that the time has finally come to seize this opportunity. The clan leader is absolutely furious that the righteous Manhwa sect is collaborating with the chaotic swordsman. He can't fathom where that bastard came from, especially since they kept tabs on every formidable master. Aside from the Manhwa sect and the chaotic swordsman, the rest are nothing but a mindless mob. We just need to buy time. Iriona orders the release of the Black Claw squadron, but the young man panics and shouts that it isn't necessary. He's glad everyone heeded his words, knowing full well that the main reason they rallied was because the Juga clan was seen as an easy target. Suddenly, the Juga clan chief's personal guard arrives, looking absolutely terrifying. They warn the chaotic swordsman to stay on his guard, as this is where the true essence of the Juga clan's martial arts shines. From this fragment of residual power, the heavenly demon's blade was finally reborn. That day, the flames consumed everything, and he is willing to do whatever it takes just to hold that hand once more. His scarred face and boiling rage refuse to let him move forward, and he simply cannot accept it. Yet for a warrior, a keen edge is essential, and even a slightly sharp blade can be lethal. He stands head and shoulders above the rest, despite everyone receiving the exact same training and resources. It's a brutal life for us and commoners alike, and many have already fled, unable to endure it. Congratulations, you are now officially a part of the Juga clan. Suddenly, the chaotic swordsman appears, leaving the young man completely baffled as to why he has returned. He lunges forward, his blade clashing violently against his opponents. He suggests that they, as fellow dragons, should settle their differences first, explicitly calling out Guan-du. Qian-yong confidently reassures them that everything is fine and says she will handle it. I thought your parting promise to settle things in a duel was quite dramatic. But now, he feels utterly mortified. Suddenly, Guan-du takes a devastating hit and collapses to the ground. With a smile, the master tells him he ought to worry about himself, as things have already gone too far. As it turns out, even among the elite dragons, Guan-du was leagues ahead of the rest, possessing truly demonic strength. Flashing a sinister grin, he offers the young man a chance to attain that power, no matter the cost. He realizes he simply has no choice. Such is the fate of those who walk the path of Murim. Qian-yong commands him to stay focused as their blades clash once more. He scoffs disdainfully, finding it laughably absurd that everyone is ultimately just chasing power. Infuriated by such trite logic, he vows to give them an equally mundane end. Their blades clash in a fierce struggle, charging the air around them with intense tension. The young man can scarcely believe his eyes, as if the very heavens and earth are trembling from their clash. Suddenly he is blown aside, completely shaken by the sheer force of the impact. He spots Baek Seol-hwa escorting the guild leader away and can't comprehend why she abandoned him to spark a war. She explains that he had merely moved her to a safe location, yet she remains furious at being brushed aside like that. Under the circumstances, staying close to them is the safest bet, especially since they know the girl's whereabouts. Baek Seol-hwa breaks down the door effortlessly, and they finally find what they were searching for. The stranger asks with a smirk where they think they're going, mockingly questioning if petty theft is all they are capable of. As a peak-level martial arts master, Juga Sa intends to teach scoundrels like them a lesson. Baek Seol-hwa and the guild leader interrogate the maid, demanding to know what she is searching for. Only a select few are privy to a matter of this magnitude, and they don't have the luxury of time for a lengthy interrogation. A ritual of such critical importance would never be performed out in the open. A hidden, specialized venue must have been prepared. Baek Seol-hwa figures it would be easier to handle everything on her own, but she has been warned about the vast size of the family estate. She reasons that they would never leave a paper trail of such dark secrets, and notes that she herself is merely a merchant. Suddenly, the guild leader uncovers a 10-year-old record detailing the construction of 2 underground chambers near the family head's residence. They tried to cover their tracks, but there were several glaring discrepancies in the ledger. Judging by the records, we are dealing with the construction of a top-secret underground facility. Now, with the family head focusing all his resources on safeguarding the ritual, this is their golden opportunity. Though the guild leader isn't well-versed in rituals, she decides to inspect the exact center of the estate. The maid is astounded that she managed to comb through all those documents in such a short time. The guild leader glares at her with utter disdain, demanding how she dares address her in such a tone. With the approximate location pinned down, Baek Seol-hwa channels her inner power to locate their objective. She detects a faint but distinct trace of energy emanating beneath the main family quarters. She readies her stance to strike, using the Sword of the Sun and Moon technique. The time has come to unleash her true energy, and she pours all her power into a devastating strike. The family head barely manages to deflect her strike, unable to fathom how such monstrous power could even exist. He bellows in a furious rage that this cannot be allowed, a massive aura erupting around his body. Even Baek Seol-hwa is taken aback that he successfully blocked the sword of the sun and moon. Suddenly, a violent shockwave sends the young man flying backward. He comes to, completely disoriented, with the lingering shock muddying his memory. The underground wall fractured and gave way entirely, revealing a hidden subterranean palace. The blue-haired girl stares in absolute horror at the corpses strewn across the rubble. The young man is terrified, wondering if he has died, but the blue-haired girl explains that his soul has merely been separated from its physical vessel. As it turns out, this is the central ritual hall. By touching one of the spiritual formations, his soul became trapped in this prison. He learned that this was a ritual of paramount importance, and it was currently underway. Whenever a major event approaches, they confine her here and manipulate her body like a mere puppet. He realizes she isn't a disciple at all, but rather the key itself, leaving him deeply mortified that he came to rescue her only to get trapped himself. The blue-haired girl seems confused as to why she would suddenly need saving. The reality of the situation far exceeds anything she could have anticipated, leaving her utterly consumed by dread. He had known all along that she was no ordinary girl, but this development was completely beyond his expectations. They say that in terms of raw martial might, the Zhuge clan lags behind typical sects, yet they still maintain their standing as one of the 5 great clans. She is going toe-to-toe with him entirely on her own, and she hasn't even reached her 20th year. But with her wielding the sword of the sun and moon, labels like prodigy or monster fail to capture her true terror. He always believed his defensive arrays were impenetrable, yet she tears through all his formations and talismans as if they were mere scrap paper. He cannot fathom who on earth she could possibly be. She proudly declares herself as Yu Ha-Yul's wife, stating there is no better way to define who she is. He figures that having another powerhouse on their side can only work to their advantage, so it doesn't bother him in the slightest. Deciding to toy with her a bit longer, he breaks into a sinister grin and prepares to strike. The young man asks if those people make her life an unbearable hell, and she quietly confirms it. Horrified by the realization that she will likely perish, he cannot comprehend why she doesn't even attempt to flee. She asks with hollow indifference what the point would be, and what freedom would even offer her. He argues in sheer desperation that she would finally be free from suffering and could enjoy the world under the open sky. The young man asks with a glimmer of hope if she truly enjoyed her time away. She sadly confesses that it was nice because it brought back memories of the past. The flame she envisions is never constant. It flickers unpredictably with every passing second. The souls of those she loves burn with a brilliant intensity, much like the blazing setting sun before them. It reminds him of that fragile little spark he had so desperately fought to keep alive. Yet on that fateful day it was utterly snuffed out, trampled into nothing but cold ash. He knows deep down that she is mistaken, and that nothing will ever truly change. Not there, not in the outside world, and certainly not here. The hero scoops her up into his arms, yelling at her to stop acting so aloof and detached from everyone else. He demands angrily if she honestly believes she is the only person who has ever felt that kind of pain. His own inner fire had died out too, leaving him to freeze in the dark more times than he could count. He gently asks her to let him help her find a new spark in life. Suddenly, an unseen hand intercepts his path, declaring that this was never meant to be. The clan leader sneers with a wicked grin, declaring that such a thing will never come to pass. Suddenly, the sky grows dark as the Black Claw Squadron pulls back, obeying their master's command. The master stands frozen in shock at their actions, entirely unable to grasp what is unfolding. Cheon-young effortlessly parries the strike, decisively proving her superiority. With a smirk, she asks why he announced his technique beforehand, only to tip her off. Furious, Baek Seol-hwa commands him to shut his mouth and die, but he merely glares back at her with utter contempt. He is completely bewildered, unable to comprehend what the hell is happening or why his power has vanished. Zhuge Gang explains with a sinister grin that this is precisely how the art of divine demonic subjugation operates. Its true essence lies not in splitting power, but in completely devouring it, he notes, casting a sinister smile upon his victim. He commands the sword of the sun and moon to stop resisting, mocking that her power is fading and that he will put it to good use. The master cries out in absolute horror, wondering if he is about to witness the birth of the next heavenly demon. Following the collapse of the demonic cult, the martial arts alliance secured total political immunity. They say that in this world, whenever power becomes fragmented, it inevitably seeks to unify once more. He scoffs mockingly, questioning how an alliance whose members refuse to obey is any different from a rotting corpse. The era of the hidden dragons ends here and now. No longer will they be made the laughingstock of the world. For old time's sake, he offers a final parting gift as a massive, overwhelming aura wraps around her body. A new era has dawned under these heavens, and he stands fully prepared for the final showdown. He deals a devastating blow, sending blood splattering in every direction. The ritual is already underway. Regardless of the outcome, she must be extracted once it concludes. Suddenly, Gideon emerges, leaving the boy completely taken aback by his unexpected appearance. Slammed from behind, he drops heavily to his knees, utterly powerless to resist. As it turns out, he had been running entirely on sheer willpower all this time, with absolutely no internal energy left in his reservoir. He asks how it feels and whether he finally understands the reality of things now. He never cared about the power. His only goals were to earn her trust, locate the child, and make his escape. If he loses his power, he will be left with absolutely nothing. No family, no allies, nothing. That is precisely why he cannot be allowed to leave. This curse must be brought to an end. He is baffled as to why the plan didn't unfold flawlessly, calculating that he should have broken through 14 stars by this point. Enraged that something has gone awry, a vibrant blue aura violently erupts around his body. Baek Seol-hwa screams in a towering fury, demanding to know if he had stolen that power from her. The master has no idea how it is happening, but it appears the sword of the sun and moon has completely intercepted the surging energy. It has been utterly corrupted and consumed by demonic energy, bringing forth something far more hazardous than before. Cheon-yong screams in absolute horror, pleading with the wielder of the sword of the sun and moon to snap out of it and come to her senses. He had always been the weakling, forever the one who needed to be rescued. He knows his enemy doesn't feel a shred of remorse, and that cold truth fuels his strength. For their sake, for everyone who has placed their faith in him, he will bring this enemy down. He lunges forward into the fray, screaming that he refuses to look away this time. She merely stood there in solitude, keeping watch through the endless night. She didn't even notice the sky beginning to brighten into dawn behind her. He cradles her gently in his arms after the darkest night. The dawn always breaks. As his internal strength completely drains away, he cries out in sheer despair, unable to comprehend what is happening to him. He looks around frantically for the Black Claw Squadron, utterly bewildered by where they could have vanished to. He cannot comprehend how those two managed to breach the area, as the barrier should never have collapsed in the first place. Baek Seol-hwa effortlessly parries his desperate attack, cleanly cutting off his path of escape. In a frantic rage, he barks orders to restart the ritual, screaming that it is not yet too late. He demands that the bastard be dragged back here right this instant. Cheon-yong gazes down at him with an icy calm, thoroughly sick and tired of his predictable antics. He screams in a blind fury at her actions, entirely oblivious to the man standing right beside him. He demands to know if she intends to hand everything over to him, including the fragment of the heavenly demon's blade and the key. The young man roars furiously that she isn't some mere key, she is a proud member of the Zhuge clan. No, her name is Zhuge Swayon. Baek Seol-hwa effortlessly deflects his strike, recognizing the artifact as something that rightfully belongs to them. He delivers a thunderous, decisive blow, sending blood spraying everywhere. The gathered crowd cheers ecstatically, chanting the name of the chaotic demon swordsman and hailing him as their savior. The guild leader asks skeptically if she is entirely certain that this incident will shatter the reputation of the orthodox sects. Cheon-yong confesses that her original plan was to shift the entire blame onto the chaotic demon swordsman before quietly slipping away. Yet she couldn't simply ignore his words, even though she had remained perfectly silent during their last encounter. She deeply laments that things had to unfold this way, watching the grim aftermath with profound sorrow. The head of the Zhuge clan vanished entirely following the fierce clash against the chaotic demon swordsman. The entire Murim world is shocked to learn that the chaotic demon swordsman is hunting for the remaining fragments, demanding his immediate elimination. Though they urgently remind her that they were strictly ordered not to provoke him, she refuses to listen. The first fragment was already held by the Manhwa sect, and the second was supposed to fall into their hands in the wake of this incident. They had already planned to permanently dispose of the Zhuge clan leader the moment the experiment concluded. Though he speaks with a detached air, as if it's none of his concern, he can't help but feel a twinge of pity for his father. It appears she has been thrust into the role of the new leader of the Zhuge clan, and she is far from pleased about it. The 10 preeminent factions governing the martial world are collectively known as the 9 great sects and 1 clan. It was through the grand unification of these massive factions that the martial arts alliance was born. Soon after, the Western factions, having patiently bided their time, launched a massive full-scale invasion that paved the way for the rise of the great demonic sect. The unorthodox sects bore the brunt of the initial onslaught, single-handedly holding the line on the Western front. The alliance suffered devastating, catastrophic losses, including the total downfall of the Huangbo clan. Ultimately, the Sichuan Tang clan, once shunned as unorthodox, led the alliance to a hard-fought victory. Yet the collateral damage from the war was monumental, forcing the entire realm to focus solely on reconstruction for generations. That fragile peace was instantly shattered the moment the most powerful warrior in the Celestial Empire unsheathed his blade. They quickly expelled the Zhuge clan and took full control of the association. Zhuge Gang, who temporarily led the clan, lost not only his main forces, but also his only son. He could resist all he wanted, but sooner or later, he would be crushed by the mad, chaotic sword demon. Whether he's joking or not, it won't be included in the report. It's a shame they lost track of Zhuge Gang. I suppose no one will speak ill of you now, chaotic sword demon? Great hero Yu Ha-yul. I, Elder Qian Yong of the Manhwa sect, sincerely thank you for your help. With a flirtatious smile, she offers to pay with her body right then and there. He tells her to give him a sign if she sees the right person, thanking her for coming to his rescue. Now that everything is over, we are returning to our original goal. The guild leader says irritably that everyone should have their own carriage. A girl with blue hair and a flirtatious smile invites him to ignite the passion in his heart. Her words leave him stunned, and the innkeeper asks if he has finally taken a concubine. The guild leader looks at him reproachfully, reminding him that he abandoned her right in the middle of the battlefield. She asks what he plans to do with her, and notes that thankfully, his identity wasn't exposed thanks to the body double. He is frustrated that she claims she won't take responsibility. He said he would help her start over and build a new life. He resolutely declares that they are going to do it anyway, his heart already burning with a beautiful passion. La landlady says with relief that at least she's alive and full of energy, and asks how they plan to solve the housing issue. Baek Seol-hwa calmly states that she and Yu Ha-yul sleep together every night, leaving everyone completely stunned. The enraged owner shouts that this isn't an inn, but a forced labor camp. The blue-haired girl enthusiastically declares that she will make money. She easily reads the thoughts of her master, who has never held a girl's hand in his entire life. The master is furious because she's asking to be beaten instead of being allowed to work. The blue-haired girl easily reads the guild leader's thoughts, and he admits it in surprise. They sign an employment contract, and the guild leader says, with a smile, that she's hired. With that kind of talent, she would become an exceptional merchant, and soon they would both be relying on her. The young man gently pats her head, and she gratefully accepts his affection. He asks what is going on with that sorcery business, and whether he is a master now. The guy defiantly asks if he really thinks he can break the seal. He declares with absolute confidence that he can break it right now, his determination knowing no bounds. He sleeps peacefully as his beloved tenderly embraces him, watching over his sleep. She kisses him, and he wakes up, relieved to see that she is right there with him. She knows he would rather die than listen to her, but he truly does need to become stronger. He is only missing one thing: understanding who he truly is. Baek Seol-hwa is doing household chores, and she looks absolutely captivating. She tenderly wishes him a good morning, and he smiles back at her. A week had passed since his return, and even though Baek Seol-hwa said everything was fine, he still felt uneasy. The young man is surprised to see them getting along so well, considering the old woman didn't like her at all. The blue-haired girl timidly suggests they have sex after eating to help with digestion. It's not that he's exactly against it, but he can't say he likes it either. She looks at him tenderly and says that's enough for her because he looks so happy when they get along. Thrilled by her words, he shouts out how much he loves his wife. The homeowner is furious that he showed up so early just to brag about his wife. He says grindingly that, like a fool, he was actually worried and thought the guy was still moping around somewhere. The young man asks for help to remove the seal as quickly as possible, but something isn't working right. This spell doesn't contain a single drop of malice. On the contrary, it is literally overflowing with goodwill. There was a deep sense of guilt, and the seal inside him seemed to beg him not to destroy it. She doesn't know exactly how it works, but one thing is clear: the seal was placed there for his own good. He suggests removing it for just a moment and then putting it right back on, but that is completely out of the question. The homeowner was bewildered that so much effort had been wasted, and he simply gave up. Zhu Soyeon is a true genius, but she has been used as a tool her whole life, so she has little actual knowledge of magic. So options are limited, and we'll have to find another way to solve the problem. He is really frustrated and unhappy with the whole situation. But he isn't going to throw a tantrum. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa holds her sword to the owner's throat, claiming that one of his men had attacked them. Terrified, the owner tearfully assures them that everything is fine and promises to take full responsibility for the damages. He asks why anyone should have to endure such injustice just to follow the path of a martial artist. It's not that he hasn't thought about it, but he simply cannot bring himself to give up. More than anything, he wants to become strong enough to protect Baek Seol-hwa. The homeowner asks suspiciously if his master knows anything about it. He urges him to think for himself, since his master should know him better than anyone. He is shocked that his master could have hidden something so important from him. It wasn't a matter of trust at all, it was simply that his master was a mediocre warrior. Meanwhile, in the forest, a group of people are preparing to set off. One of them notices something inside the tent and decides to go check it out. Panicking, they wake their companion, telling him it's time to get ready. It turns out they were hired to protect the merchant guild, so they must fulfill their duties. Suddenly, a mysterious woman steps out of the tent and smiles, wishing everyone a good morning. She embraces the young man with a flirtatious smile, apologizing for her behavior. Enraged, the guards shout that they are shameless creatures and that they will have to take action soon. "So we're shameless creatures now?" she asks mockingly, wondering if they should keep going. The girl is hungover, and the young man is horrified to learn she's been drinking all night. She defends herself, saying there are some things that can only be forgotten with wine. The Baek clan was completely wiped out during an attack by a bandit sect. He was just a scrawny servant boy who couldn't even read. He turned 14 that year, making him far too old to begin training in martial arts. Too young for a real job. He ended up working as a simple laborer in the merchant guild. For an entire year, he begged every single hired guard to take him on as an apprentice. The mysterious stranger smiled and agreed to take him in, leaving the young man completely stunned. From that day forward, he became his disciple, his eyes filled with fierce determination. He pretends he's on the verge of death, but his master coldly tells him to go ahead and die then. He asks for just a bit more patience, but that stench is about to knock him out cold. Munyan will be in charge of the rear guard today, allowing him to breathe a sigh of relief. They are entering the final stretch of their journey north, and the mountain ahead is their last obstacle. He places his trust in his Hao brothers while someone whispers in his ear. It turns out this third-rate girl had been keeping a remarkably low profile all this time. Internal energy is what sets a martial artist apart from an ordinary person. A third-rate fighter is essentially just a trained, ordinary person with an unawakened energy center. One only becomes a second-rate master when energy begins to circulate through the body, granting immense strength. Once you achieve absolute control over this energy, you enter the realm of superhuman possibilities. The master he had finally found turned out to be a complete nobody, a mere third-rate martial artist. He tries to calm her down, saying she has no reason to be angry, but she remains furious. She yells that everything he said is the absolute truth, which is precisely why there's no reason to get mad. He is too ashamed to even raise his head, and it's all because of her, his master. Someone remarks mockingly that it's no wonder he's afraid to look up with such a wonderful master by his side. He's completely fed up with her and yells at her to stop, as she smells like she just threw up. Suddenly, the leader of the merchant guild appears, leaving everyone astonished. He explains that he spent the entire day conducting inspections and decided to step out to stretch his legs. The guild leader mockingly asks if they've heard that they are currently in the territory of the Greenwood Bandits. The young man apologizes, admitting that they've done nothing but bicker the entire way. He explains that he only hired him because he was cheap and didn't expect much from him anyway. The boy admits with a smile that he didn't have much of a choice either when he decided to follow her. The guild leader agrees with the young lady that there is absolutely nothing to fear. All sorts of scoundrels like to exaggerate their numbers, and he had crossed these mountains multiple times himself. He'll bet his own hand that they won't dare to show up. Suddenly, they are ambushed by bandits, and the front line is already collapsing. The young man screams for help in a panic, but his master doesn't seem to understand what the big deal is. With cold calm, she declares that they are getting out of there and grabs him by the collar. He's completely bewildered and asks how she can even think that, since they are obligated to protect them. He is furious that his master is so dismissive of everything and asks her if she even has a conscience. She fires back furiously, warning him that he'll die in the blink of an eye if he keeps babbling like that. She asks him what he's trying to accomplish, reminding him that the enemy is already upon them. Seeing no other choice, she resolutely draws her sword. She ties him up, telling him he leaves her no choice, leaving him completely shocked by her actions. She explains that she would have run away a long time ago if it weren't for him. She says that if she had been alone, she would have abandoned the caravan and left this place long ago. Her words horrify him, but she strictly reminds him of the first rule. She states that one must avoid fights and prioritize survival above all else. That is the law. The young man asks in despair why she even taught him how to use a sword in the first place. The guild leader tries to calm everyone down, reminding them that the great hero Mayun is still fighting for them. He remains confident that the hero has already handled the villains and rushes over to assist him. Suddenly, Mayun appears, and everyone looks at him with hope, believing he has come to save them. As it turns out, he was captured too, and he wryly remarks that for a merchant, the man is far too quick to jump to conclusions. The guild leader is horrified that such a monster has appeared and tearfully begs the great hero for forgiveness. The entire bandit gang has gathered, and the mysterious woman greets them with a smirk. It turns out she is one of the 8 outcasts of the Greenwood, leaving the guild leader shocked by her presence. With a smile, she notes that she rarely gets involved in these kinds of altercations, but unforeseen circumstances arose this time. It turns out she has accumulated massive gambling debts, which isn't exactly surprising. The guild leader begs them to take all the goods and money as long as they let everyone go safely. The girl glares at him with contempt, stating that everything is already hers anyway. She inspects the cargo and realizes it's clearly not enough to cover her debts. With a devilish grin, she declares that she will sell them all to a slave trader tomorrow. Everyone is horrified by her words, unable to believe they are about to be sold into slavery. They cry out in utter desperation, protesting that they cannot be sold as slaves. What would happen to their families? He decides to bide his time until the right moment comes so he can at least get the 2 of them out of there. She speaks up and suggests going straight to the merchant guild to demand a ransom for the captives instead. That way they will make a far bigger profit and everyone will eventually be reunited with their families. Smiling, she asks who he is, and the young man introduces himself as Yu Ha-yul, the disciple of a martial arts master. The mysterious woman smiles and says she has something for Yu Ha-yul as well. With a mischievous grin, she admits she adores people like him. Selfless and brave, he takes a crushing blow and drops to his knees, utterly unable to resist. Looking down at him with disdain, she tells him that he needs to get his act together once and for all. She decides that's enough, since after all they are still just merchandise. The guild leader is horrified by their capture, but the young man assures him that he's fine. He proudly shows off the key he managed to swipe, leaving everyone amazed by his resourcefulness. They owe an immense debt of gratitude to the young hero, but they need to escape before they get caught. The door swings open, and they rush toward freedom while they still have the chance. The young man urges his master to run while she has the opportunity. She notes mockingly that first-class warrior might have suspected something after all. In truth, she really was going to sell them this time, but the boy somehow managed to sway her. She wonders with amusement what kind of faces they'll make when they realize how badly they've been tricked. Suddenly, a mysterious woman blindsides her from behind, leaving her no time to react. She is horrified that she didn't even notice her approach, completely clueless as to who she is. Even now, she cannot sense her presence at all, which absolutely terrifies her. His master asks him why she ever taught him to use a sword, and he doesn't understand what she means by that. She kisses him tenderly, apologizing, and explaining that she only needed to go retrieve her sword. She orders them to get out of there before they get caught, and he looks at her, thoroughly embarrassed. She promises him that she will never do it again, and that she will never leave him to fend for himself. A mysterious girl with pink hair and a menacing glare declares that she has a job for him. She points at him disdainfully, calling him someone who can barely make ends meet. She asks him how much longer he intends to slave away for a stranger, and if he wants his children to suffer the same fate. She claims to know the perfect place for him, where a true breakthrough awaits. She invites him to the casino to win his very own house and land. She encourages everyone to cultivate their own estates, calling it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Upon meeting the poison phoenix, Tang He, the crowd erupts into roaring cheers. The guard regretfully informs them that they do not admit anyone under the age of 20. Suddenly, a mysterious beauty arrives, her appearance sparking great excitement among the crowd. With a lecherous smirk, the guard remarks that the more people there are, the better, but emphasizes the need to keep a close eye on that woman. The girls look around in delight, practically smelling the scent of money in the air. Checking their war chest, it turns out one of them had even received an advance payment. The very first thing they decide to do is mortgage their property. It turns out to be a real estate mortgage, leaving the blue-haired girl utterly stunned. With a sly grin, she holds up the mortgage deed for the Penwalled Inn. In the great Tang clan, there is a saying, "Return kindness with kindness, and repay an insult tenfold." In other words, you have to win first to balance the scales for both the good and the bad. She tenderly embraces her friend, telling her that with their combined strength, they are completely invincible. No one dares to stand in their way, and she watches everything unfold with absolute delight. Suddenly, a young man appears, and she screams in horror, demanding to know what he's doing there. The young man explains that he's just keeping watch while his beloved changes her clothes. The pink-haired girl is furious that she isn't allowed to go, arguing that she's plenty old enough to hang out with her friends. She blushes furiously at his question, declaring that if it weren't for her training, she would already be married by now. He dryly notes that most girls get married before turning 20, before deciding to leave them be. Tang He orders them to behave themselves and stay out of trouble, though it is actually his presence that terrifies her the most. She realizes with horror that if he is here, then the sword of the sun and moon must be somewhere nearby as well. The blue-haired girl doesn't see what the big deal is, confident because she has her special gift. With a sly grin, Tang He tells her there is nothing to worry about and that she will take care of everything. She reminds her friend that there is only one crucial thing she needs to keep in mind. The pink-haired girl places her bet with absolute confidence, clearly holding an excellent hand. She warns to watch every move carefully, because the moment the enemy shows a weakness, you have to strike. Tang He accepts the bet and goes all in, leaving her opponent stunned by such sheer boldness. He is horrified to see that she only has 3 points, unable to believe his own failure. It turns out she only has a single point, yet she celebrates her victory with immense joy. The blue-haired girl apologizes for not knowing the rules, but Tang He assures her she did everything perfectly. It's all that crazy swordsman's fault, and she is furious that nothing but failure seems to await her. Ever since she met him, nothing but failure has haunted her, and her friend realizes she's simply looking for a scapegoat. Suddenly, a mysterious figure in a red hood appears and challenges her to a round. She's furious because she doesn't have a single coin left, but the stranger isn't asking for money. With a sinister smile, he declares that they will stake their lives on it, but she scornfully refuses. The pink-haired girl scoffs, asking who in their right mind would ever think of risking their life. This is completely absurd. The casino manager, Chang Mu, flatters him, calling him a literal one-man army. He thanks him for agreeing to leave his weapon behind. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa appears in a revealing outfit, leaving the young man completely stunned. He yells in a fury, thinking she disguised herself as another man's wife, but it all turns out to be a misunderstanding. Stunned, she insists she definitely left a guard uniform here. Not this traditional performance attire. The moment he saw that outfit, he knew right away she was trying to seduce him. With a flirtatious smile, she asks what he thinks, and he sheepishly admits that he likes it. Suddenly, the manager takes a blow straight to the eye and shrieks in absolute agony. Panicking, he tells them they can rest there and that he'll be back for them later. The young man asks with concern if that guy is going to be all right. With a sinister grin, the manager replies that they'll squeeze even more out of him. The buy-in is 20 silver coins, with a minimum bet of 1 coin per round. The match concludes after 20 rounds, or as soon as one team goes completely broke. If she wins, she sweeps all the silver coins, and if he wins, she still takes all the silver coins anyway. He leads her right to the mad swordsman, keeping his promise. And so the game begins. This fool has absolutely no idea that the mad swordsman is already right here in the casino. He has an incredible amount of power at his disposal. And though he doesn't understand why he possesses it, that doesn't stop him from winning. She decides to wager 19 coins, risking everything right from the start. With a wicked smirk, he claims that no matter what she wagers, his hand will always be superior. Catching a signal from Juga Soyeon, she realizes he is likely bluffing. She calls the bet, wearing a sinister smile as she prepares to reveal her hand. Suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through her, and she cries out in shock. She's absolutely furious that a total scumbag like him thinks he can resort to brute force just because he's losing. Glaring at him defiantly, she dares him to try as her body becomes engulfed in vibrant green flames. He sneers, asking if she fails to see that an honest victory is already right under her nose. She furiously accuses him of rigging the deck and swapping the cards. Hwatu is a battle of flowers. If you can't handle getting hit, then you're nothing but a child. Flashing a wicked grin, she says, if that's how you want it, so be it. Hearing a sudden commotion outside, the young man decides to check out what's going on. A massive explosion echoes out. He knows he was ordered to stay inside, but he just has to check. He sees the crowd fleeing in absolute panic, utterly horrified to discover that a mere game of Hwatu caused this. An all-out battle is raging on the rooftop, the entire area trembling under the force of their devastating blows. She summons the secret Royal Inspector card to attack, both of them surging raw energy into their cards. He slips 3 special cards from his sleeve, combining them to unleash the ultimate combo. The young man cries out in horror, begging them to stop since he has no clue what they're doing. It manifests as a chaotic demon swordsman, and she commands it to strike. Stunned that they don't recognize him, he roars in fury, demanding how they dare look past his face. It reminds him of the disfigured face they ruined alongside that little girl's. Look, it's him, Kyung-chul, his face twisted in pure rage and fury. Baffled, the young man asks who he is as a wave of anxiety washes over him. The servant anxiously checks on his master's eyes, but the master is still feeling completely dizzy. He asks, suspiciously, do you think that bitch suspects anything? He thinks this girl from the Orthodox factions might have warned them out of the pure goodness of her heart. He orders them to follow the plan to the letter, having spotted that bastard lurking around their shop. Moments ago, he was screaming in rage that no matter the reason, this had gone way too far. He's driven to despair. If it weren't for that scoundrel Yu Ha-yul, he wouldn't be trapped in such a horrific situation. He plans to use his connections to pit those vile bastards against one another. He'll simply finish off whichever survivor is left exhausted, bagging a massive bounty for his head. He hadn't expected him to bring the Sword of the Sun and Moon, but he already knew the two of them were secretly involved. The presence actually proved beneficial, leveling the playing field by disarming them. He glares at her with disdain, muttering that just because she has a pretty face doesn't mean she can get away with everything. He can't wait to see her suffer, his eyes brimming with sheer malice. He's completely baffled as to why that same Kyung-chul fled, entirely unable to comprehend what just went down. Those who inflict harm on others always act like nothing happened and quietly put it behind them. He can still see them whenever he closes his eyes. A profound horror consumes him. Changsum, whom he had brutally beaten, just kept smiling through it all. He vividly remembers how they willingly sold themselves into slavery in his place. He screams that her master is nothing but a mediocre, ordinary hack, a completely worthless girl. The king himself cast him out solely because he suffered a loss to that upstart. He realizes that since internal energy isn't an option, everything comes down to pure brute force. The servant shrieks in panic, yelling that the fight has already begun. She trained tirelessly to achieve absolute perfection, possessing a flawless beauty from birth. He forged a perfect physique just to match her, and now everyone stares in absolute horror at his appearance. With a wicked grin, he sneers, I hope you're all done admiring this handsome face. Panicking, the young man screams at Juga Soyeon to run, shouting that they need to escape together. He effortlessly blocks her diagonal overhead left strike, but she refuses to back down. He parries her straight right and her entire punch combo, leaving her stunned by his overwhelming strength. She might be burning with the same legendary fury as Shupeng back in the day, but her actual power is simply no match. If Juga Soyeon hadn't called out their names, she wouldn't have been able to dodge a single one of those strikes. Gently, she promises him that she will protect and look after him until the very end. Tang He scoffs, mocking him for missing and declaring that the fun is officially over. The guards are already closing in, meaning it's high time for her to head back to the inn. She's baffled by how quickly the guards arrived, but given how hard she worked to pull this off, her boss should be indebted to her for the rest of his life. Those two idiots toss their weapons aside here for a martial artist that's like throwing away your very soul. Grinning like a demon, he realizes the wielder of the Sword of the Sun and Moon is now completely unarmed. She threatens him, vowing that she will track him down soon and settle the score herself. He's done an impressive job of dodging so far, but he hasn't launched a single counterattack. He stands no chance against her, and now he has no choice but to accept his fate. Shouldn't a true swordsman have a few hidden tricks up his sleeve to get out of a tight spot? He's starting to panic, realizing his plan might have been exposed as the enemy begins gathering massive energy. The young man desperately shouts for backup, but his opponent is certain that nothing can save him now. Baek Seol-hwa suddenly bursts onto the scene, leaving everyone utterly dumbfounded by her rabbit ears. They leap all over the place, locking into bizarre positions you'd only expect to see in some trashy adult movie. Awkwardly holding her in his arms, he groans, asking if he really has to carry her like this. She's livid that he has the nerve to completely suppress his internal energy while effortlessly dodging her attacks. He yells at the top of his lungs, asking if she can even see what's happening. The casino manager is utterly shell-shocked by the chaos, unable to understand why this noble client is suddenly flying through the air. They're going to tear down our entire casino at this rate. If they don't stop, it's going to cost us an absolute fortune. It turns out he's sprinting down the corridor without utilizing a shred of internal energy, completely using a guest as a human shield. He deliberately chose to conserve his energy just to toy with them, which infuriates his opponent to no end. He commands everyone to mobilize immediately, demanding they ensure the target does not escape. We have to do everything we can to make sure they completely exhaust each other in this clash. Now that backup has arrived, the young man looks at his enemies with a sinister smirk. They are horrified by his terrifying expression, unable to believe he is finally showing his true monstrous nature. Taunting them, he declares that they are completely cornered and suggests they surrender if they want to keep their lives. He mutters that none of this would have happened if she had just cooperated and talked to him. She barks an order for him to submit, threatening that he will lose his precious companion otherwise. He has no idea what they are trying to achieve or what she has been muttering under her breath this whole time. What difference does it make if a few more small fry throw themselves into the mix? He unleashes a devastating strike, and his opponent barely manages to evade it by a hair. He has to protect Juga Swayon at all costs, especially since there is nowhere left to run. Suddenly, Baek Seol-hwa cuts into the fray, her timely arrival saving him from certain death. She hurls her sword toward him, and he instantly realizes this is his one and only shot. A blinding flash of light erupts, obscuring everyone's vision as he struggles to maintain his footing. The manager shrieks in absolute horror that his casino is in ruins and everything has blown to pieces. He is panicking wildly as his eyes burn from the smoke, completely overwhelmed by the chaos. The manager is utterly appalled by the destruction unfolding before him, unable to hold back his explosive rage. Baek Seol-hwa calls out to her beloved with a playful, teasing smile. He looks at her in shock, then glances over at the blue-haired girl. He's sweating bullets, wondering why on earth she had to catch him red-handed with two girls at the exact same time. Panicking, he stammers out an explanation, but Baek Seol-hwa just shoots him a look of pure disdain. She is furious that he could even say that, considering all of this chaos is entirely Kyung-chul's fault. He doesn't understand what she's talking about, but his face becomes as rigid as a sword sheath. He breathes a sigh of relief seeing that she is unharmed, drawing her into a tender embrace. Deciding to throw caution to the wind, he declares it's finally time to put an end to the culprit behind all this chaos. He decides to report everything to his master, leaving a heavy, tense silence hanging over the room. He's completely horrified that he was behind all of this, unable to wrap his head around her betrayal. It turns out the warehouse was raided, and every single person lying in ambush was wiped out as well. Everyone is in utter shock that their entire plan went down the drain because of that cursed demon swordsman. The casino manager speaks up smoothly, suggesting that this must all just be a big misunderstanding. The young man practically cries tears of joy, thrilled that someone finally gets it. He insists they had no ill intent, arguing that the other side were the ones who started the whole mess. He drops a subtle threat, pointedly reminding them about the upcoming medical bills and staff compensation. She thought he would be furious, but instead, he handed her a massive bonus for all the trouble. He discovered there was a lucrative bounty on that woman's head, and suddenly luck was completely on his side. An even better idea strikes him, and he fixes his victim with a truly sinister grin. She felt a pang of worry when he vanished so abruptly. And yet here she was. The world is a brutal place these days. In the Murim world, an ordinary person without sharp wits or the sense to run away in time won't survive for long. The blue-haired girl requests another cup of green tea, completely unfazed by everything around her. They warmly welcome the dragon priestess, Lady Juga Soyeon, thrilled to see her in perfect health. He must have completely lost his mind, suddenly demanding an advance before sprinting straight to the gambling den. Judging by his reaction, he clearly harbored no ill intent, and his instincts turned out to be incredibly sharp. She had recently started to enjoy traveling, and that prior encounter with the demon swordsman had taught her a great deal. She offers an apology, explaining that it was an exceptional circumstance and she was merely acting as her protector. News that the demon swordsman has been imprisoned sends shockwaves through the entire region. The council leader is the one who carries the absolute will of heaven, imparting it to everyone around him. He serves faithfully day and night within the province bestowed upon him by His Majesty. Before answering, he proudly declares himself the father of all the people under his protection. With a polite smile, the young man asks for permission to stand, receiving deep gratitude for saving his life. He cannot comprehend what kind of monstrous entity could have been left forgotten in such a remote province. Tang He shouts with joy that they've come for the reward, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She is absolutely furious that this good-for-nothing magistrate hasn't rewarded these great heroes yet. The pink-haired girl points straight at the boy, clarifying that she is demanding the reward on his behalf. She proudly boasts about capturing the chaotic demon swordsman, but absolutely no one believes her. She reveals that he has been apprehended, ordering that he be brought immediately before the Murim alliance. Tang He, the poison phoenix of the great Sichuan Tang clan, destined to become the strongest martial artist in the world, a peerless beauty and an exceptional prodigy. The young man dryly asks if she expects to collect a bounty on him. She proposes, claiming that she was the one who captured him, offering to escort him before the council. But he reminds her that his bounty wasn't issued by the local magistrate, but by the Murim Alliance. There's an alliance branch over in Shanxi, and it will take at least 2 weeks for word to reach them and for them to arrive. Then, she can just show up in a mask, break him out, and extract him by force. Just like that. Easy money. He stares at her in utter bewilderment, wondering where on earth she comes up with such wild ideas. He flatly refuses, stating that it's a total scam and he wants absolutely no part in it. The pink-haired girl throws a tantrum because he keeps repeating the exact same thing every single day. She argues that it's not a scam at all, but rather legitimate compensation. He looks around at his companions in surprise, completely unable to follow what's going on. She asks what he's even doing there with that thing. And he replies that Yu Ha-yul will be staying here for the next 2 weeks. She demands round-the-clock visitation rights for the next 14 days, and her words leave everyone completely speechless. He can't believe he walked straight into that girl's trap, feeling thoroughly ashamed of himself. The young man realizes with immense annoyance that he succumbed to her pressure and let himself get played. In a sense, this is just how things go in the Murim world, and since the Murim alliance is partly to blame as well, he has absolutely nothing left to say. She confidently declares that there is nothing to worry about, since they are dealing with none other than the poison phoenix Tang He. Baek Seol-hwa furiously warns that if she messes up one more time, she will personally slam her head into the dirt. Tang He scoffs at them with contempt, entirely unable to grasp what they are so afraid of. This isn't the main headquarters of the Murim alliance. At best, they'll just dispatch a couple of righteous martial artists to assist. Suddenly, a mysterious stranger emerges, his striking appearance catching everyone completely off guard. He confidently declares that whoever shows up from the alliance will be nothing but a bunch of pathetic weaklings.